there, and welcome back to the Senate Podcast. I am joined, as always, by Caleb, General of the 501st Army of the Republic. I think I got that right. I haven't seen Clone Wars. Caleb Johnston.
You got it.
Caleb, how have you been?
2024 has been busy in a good way. Recorded a lot of podcasts so far. So the year's going to start out strong. We're going to be to episode 50 before you know it. We have some exciting plans for the near future. And then I just found out I have another podcast that I'm producing that's starting up in February. So the beginning of this year is going to be very fun, very busy. I can't wait. I had a nice break. It was a nice, time to just get away from everything, play some games, relax. But now we're back in it, so it's going good.
Yeah, I feel you on being busy in a good way. I mean, it's not as much for me, but I got a role in a play actually that's happening at this relatively small performing arts center in my city. It's I don't know if you're familiar with the movie 12 Angry Men.
Sounds familiar.
It's a classic movie, basically. Yeah. It's essentially structured like a play where it's just like 12 guys who got summoned for jury duty, and they're having a conversation like whether they think the defendant is innocent or guilty. But it's not limited to just men, so I'm excited to see how that changes up the dynamic of the group and the perspective and stuff. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's not one of the ones that they had me read for, which was interesting, but on the application it's like, which roles would you be interested in? And I picked like 5 because I just wanted to be in it. So I'm excited about that, small step. I'm not as nervous now. I'll probably feel a little more so closer to it, but yeah, so starting off pretty strong.
That's awesome, dude. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah. So we're continuing our retrospective on the mainline Skywalker saga, as it's now been called. I kind of don't like that moniker, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
I guess it fits.
It doesn't need to be a 9-episode saga. It doesn't. It seems just redundant. Like before. Okay, I have so much to say. Go ahead.
So, we started off with the original trilogy. The prequel trilogy. Those were pretty controversial. Some fans loved them, some fans hated them. They kind of split the fan base. And we talked about the original trilogy, which pretty universally loved, pretty well revered. And now, it's fitting to end this retrospective series talking about a trilogy of movies that are in no way controversial, that everybody, just agrees are fantastic, great storytelling, no fan outcry whatsoever, no schisms in the fan base, anything like that. It's great because, like, imagine if the next Star Wars trilogy just pissed off a lot of people. Imagine if that happened. Like, that would be terrible. But thankfully, that's not what happened. So I don't know what alternate universe you're living in.
It's almost like we planned this.
It's almost like we know what we're doing. All right, so before we get to talking about the actual movie, I want to talk a bit about the anticipation and the build-up to Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Because I don't know about you, but for me, the only other movie I can think of that I noticed this level of hype was the first Avengers movie. And then after that, good, yeah. Infinity War and Endgame. But, like, dude, the hype was real. I don't know exactly how I found out about Lucasfilm being bought by Disney, and a new Star Wars trilogy, but I freaking lost it because I loved Revenge of the Sith, and then, I got into the other movies. Star Wars, when I was an older kid, like age 12 to, beyond, was like my freaking thing. Like, I just loved it. So I'm like, we're getting new Star Wars movies? What? Oh my God. And then that first teaser trailer came out a while later, which, in my opinion, one of the best trailers ever made. Like, it
It was so good, dude.
It like
There's a reason it got that
it
many
like
views.
yeah, it like showed you like shots to kind of convey what the tone was, but it gave you no plot details, nothing, just pure speculation. Like the fan speculation after that trailer released was incredible. You know, a lot of that was because Kylo's lightsaber was impractical because it had like a side hilt, but like it's the laser thing, so like he could burn himself if he's not careful. That was pretty fun.
Very
And
controversial, like everything else.
yeah, and you know, finding out that J.J. Abrams was going to be the director, which I got my problems with J.J. Abrams, as I'm sure a lot of people do. I've heard that, but when he's on his game, he's one of my favorite filmmakers. When he's off his game, we're gonna talk about it later. Don't worry. But
Yeah.
I'm not. JJ's not getting by unscathed. Okay, so you know, I'm gonna turn it over to you. What was your experience like? You know, finding out that there was another trilogy and just being anticipated, seeing the trailers and the marketing, and just buying your ticket and just being like, I'm gonna see a new Star Wars movie after Lord knows how long.
Well, so it came out in 2015, so that's actually 10 years after the last Star Wars film. You know, of course, it was huge. The trailer, like you mentioned, had the most views ever for anything. It was insanely huge, and I was excited. The trailer, like you said, it got me hyped. I was super hyped going into it. I was ready. I didn't think it was going to be on par with the other ones just because it wasn't George anymore. And I knew that. I wasn't sad that Disney had the rights to Star Wars, but it just, to me, it wasn't the same. So I guess, you know, I'm such a big Star Wars fan. I already had a bias going into it, growing up with the George Lucas era. I did have a bias against it, but I still wanted to, you know, love it and enjoy it. I just knew that it wasn't going to be the same, you know, but I was excited for it. And I actually really did enjoy The Force Awakens. I thought it was a good movie. So,
Yeah, little funny story about the night I actually saw it. I was working a retail job at the time at a grocery store, and like I had bought my ticket in advance because I wasn't dumb. I'm like, I need to get a ticket before they're sold out for like 8 months or you know the next year or whatever. And so like I can't remember a time where I ever wanted to get done with my shift that badly in my life. I'm like, the only thing keeping me from seeing a new Star Wars movie after 10 years is my job, you know, like and then, you know, I got some candy, rode a bus because I didn't have a card to where the IMAX is, walked over. I saw it in IMAX 3D, beautiful 3D, great use of 3D.
I wish I would have seen that in IMAX.
And dude, I walked in the lobby. The line was so big. Even though I already had my ticket, I knew, you know, I had a seat. I was still worried that all the seats would be filled and I would have to go home. I'd never seen anything like that. You know, people dressing up. It was great. Like I haven't seen anything like that. Even for like a lot of the big Marvel movies and stuff, like I haven't seen any fanfare quite as big as that, as besides, like I mentioned, the first Avengers movie. So, you know, that was absolutely crazy. Okay, so before we start, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. The reason I'm hosting these episodes, or at least this one mainly, is because despite everything that went wrong with this trilogy, all the, you know, problems, all the poor story decisions, the bad management by Disney, just poor management, just astoundingly awful management by Disney. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. This is still my favorite Star Wars trilogy. You know, because, well, I'll talk about why in a second, but
you're gonna have to, with a statement like
that.
Yeah,
but I just want to assure you all that doesn't mean I'm gonna be easy on these movies at all, because I got some problems. You know, they get progressively worse, kind of, which is weird because one of these movies, that's not this one, is my favorite. I'll let you figure it out. But I still got, you know, I still have my problems. So I'm going to take a quick drink break and then we were going to get in.
We're going to dive into this.
Okay, so opening with the title crawl, like all mainline Star Wars movies do, I want to touch upon something that's literally the first sentence of this crawl. Luke Skywalker has vanished. You know, so me personally, in my mind, I was like, oh, what, huh? Wait, but okay, that's not what I expected. I wonder what happened. Put a pin in that. But so, you know, when you were, you know, sitting in the theater to watch the movie and you see this bit of information, you know, just one simple sentence, what was running through your mind? Like, is this like what you expected would happen, that Luke wouldn't be like a big focus, or like what was running through your mind?
I thought that I didn't. I thought that Luke had to be a big deal, obviously, and I thought they were obviously teasing it, and they did, but I thought they were going to tease it in a sense that they weren't going to show him in the trailers, they weren't going to show him maybe in the beginning of the movie, but he was going to come in at some point of the movie.
Yeah,
and you were going to see all three of the original characters together with the new characters, and they ended up not doing that. They wanted to drag this out, and I think that was really the start of all of their mistakes, because I like J.J. Abrams. I know that's controversial, but I think he is a great director. I like his movies. I think he did a great job with The Force Awakens.
Yeah, me too.
Problem was, I think, you know, I heard Kathleen Kennedy say after George Lucas gave her Lucasfilms, she said that they wanted to have a Star Wars film by 2025, and when they were producing it and trying to get it going, that they did not treat it any different than they would treat any other blockbuster. I think that was one of their biggest mistakes, because yes, Star Wars, you know, was a blockbuster, but it was always made with an independent filmmaking mindset to it.
Yeah,
and I think when they took that out of it, it lost a lot of its quality and charm, because look what they tried to do. They tried to lead you on. They didn't even show Luke till the very end, and then it was like, oh, cliffhanger. They wanted your money over the course of, you know, however many years, and it wasn't so much focused on making a concrete story. They said, you know, Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams said they didn't want to copy the originals, but they did. And I think the best parts of the movie was when they were copying it, because the new stuff that they used, they just didn't stick to it. And we'll talk about, you know, the stuff that they kind of started and it had potential, but then they didn't stick to. But watching the movie, it was nice seeing the new implementations for the new characters, but I think it was very poorly handled for a product that was already in the Star Wars universe. You know, talking about Leia or Luke, I think the only exception would be Han Solo. So
yeah. Well, speaking of JJ, I'm gonna circle back to it in a little bit, because it's all over this freaking movie. In retrospect, in really negative ways. But there's a specific thing that JJ's known for doing. I'm gonna be vague about it now, because, you know, like I said, I'm gonna round back to it. But he has a way of telling stories that is it kind of feels like his one trick. Like he's like a one trick pony, and, you know, he just pulls this out of his pocket, and it's like people are starting to wise up to it and be like, dude, can't you do any other magic tricks, you know? Okay, so the First Order is at war with the New Republic. First Order rising from the ashes of the Empire. They're, you know, I saw this video by the Nostalgia Critic. I know he's a controversial creator, but I'm just referencing something he said. This isn't like me necessarily saying that I like him, but
yeah.
I think it was him talking with his brother doing like a review of this movie, and he said something that I thought was funny, you know, as a fan of the prequels. He was like, you know, watching this movie really made me wish I had like a big George Lucas style exposition dump to explain, because the world building in these movies sucks. I don't know, like, they just throw these terms. New First Order, rising from the ashes of the Empire. Leia's a general, you know. She's with the New Republic, you know. and it's like essentially what happened in A New Hope, but just brand new incarnations, and just sitting there watching it, like it's not something I thought about at the time, but I thought about it later, and it's like, yeah, like we're like just thrown all these words instead of actually being shown like what these things are. It's just like, okay, here are the words you need to know. Are you good? Are you good? Are you good? Okay, let's move on. And it's like, whoa, wait. So like, what do you think about that? Like, as far as like the world building and how it's kind of lackluster.
I think that the design was very good. It felt like when you looked at it, it looked like a Star Wars movie. And that obviously captivated a lot of people. People looked at it and said, oh, this looks like Star Wars. But then the meat and bones were not Star Wars. And that's whenever you start looking at the deeper world building. I think the only, like Jakku, that was just another
Tatooine.
And then where was Maz Kanata? What was that planet?
Takodana.
Takodana. I liked it, but it was just another, I would say, like Yavin,
Yeah.
So then you basically had Hoth thrown in there somewhat at the end, and Starkiller Base was just another Death Star. There wasn't new ideas. It really was a copy and paste, Walmart version, great value version of Star Wars, because it didn't go past the surface level. Now it did have that surface level. I think that it looked like Star Wars. They had the characters. I mean, George created the formula. They took the formula and they didn't do anything. So
yeah, it didn't like put any new spices to like it's still the formula, but it's a new recipe. Yeah, I think my favorite part of this whole crawl though is like General Leia send her star pilot or something to meet with an old ally, and it's like, yeah, it's a dude that we never met before who has 3 lines and then he dies. Yeah. Woohoo, great job. Okay, so the opening on Jakku, with the
I will
eclipse
say,
of the Star Destroyer, that's a great shot.
For you said General Leia, I love the fact that they made her General.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I like it. I liked her character a lot. I like what they did with that, and I like what they did with Han, and I like what they did with Finn.
We're going to talk about Finn.
Yeah, okay. We'll get into it. I like what they did with Finn. Besides that, yeah, what you're saying about the pilot, that was kind of a waste. And then Rey was kind of a waste in a sense. So
I'm going to touch upon Poe Dameron later. There's a very specific thing that just itches my crawl. Okay, so speeding up a little bit, Poe's going to meet, I don't remember his name because it's not important, played by Max von Sydow, who's actually like a legendary actor, or was. He passed away some amount of years ago. And, it's cool because, A New Hope had Alec Guinness, who was like a, well-renowned classic actor. So it was cool that they got somebody like that in this movie, but like, bro doesn't do shit, so it's like I don't care. They could have had me play. That's
like
role.
The moral of the story.
They could have had me play that role, and the movie would have been exactly the same, except I wouldn't have been old. But they could have put like, old man prosthetic makeup on me and just said, hey, just play an old guy who dies. Okay, so he's meeting with this guy, and he gives him a pouch. He's like, this should start to make things right, and the opening crawl says it's a map to Luke Skywalker, which is we're gonna talk about. I hate that every time I bring up something in this movie, I have to say we're gonna specifically talk about it later because it has so many caveats to it. But so it's like they want to find Luke Skywalker because he pieced out and fight the First Order and win the war just like he did before. Whatever, it's classic Star Wars plot. But I really like the ominous tone here. Like when you see the stormtrooper ship flying in, it's like, like ominous and creepy. And they redesigned the stormtroopers a little bit. I kind of like how slick they look, but I kind of miss like in the original trilogy how they had like a gritty aesthetic. because they were fighting in war and
They should
the
have been
trenches and
even
shit.
more gritty because these
Exactly,
were remnants of the Empire. The First
Yeah.
Order. The First Order wasn't the Empire. It was like a remnant of the Empire, and they look so much more sophisticated than anything we've ever seen. It's like it doesn't really add up. And then the New Republic. What even is the New Republic? It gets destroyed before we even know anything about it. So the fact that remember when they destroyed Alderaan, that hurt us because that was Leia's planet, and you saw the anguish on her. But now they destroyed all of like the main New Republic worlds, and I could care less because I have no idea what they even were.
Well, I could tell you the practical reason for the stormtroopers having shiny new costumes is because kids wouldn't want to buy a stormtrooper toy that's all dirty. Obviously, idiot. Come on, you got to think about the merchandise. So the stormtroopers show up and there's a war between them and some people from this village. A lot of people die, which I'm gonna say this is a hot take, but I've felt this way for a while, and I still do, not as much, but I kind of like this movie more than A New Hope in some ways. And one of the reasons is that, the opening of that movie, the stormtroopers are killing people, but it doesn't, like it feels like a classic sci-fi serial, which is obviously the intention. But here, it's like, like really like creepy and violent, like there's blood, like, Finn's friend. At the time, we didn't know it was Finn. He got shot, and then Finn's like, "Oh crap, no!" And then he like nails down to his body, and then he wipes like his bloody hands, which I don't know how he would have been bleeding from his hands because he's wearing the gloves. But screw it, he wipes his hand on his face, and that like kind of makes Finn realize, what am I doing here? Oh my god, I'm in over my head here. Which I'm gonna say this. From the trailer, when I saw this, because this shot was in one of the trailers,
I think this is one of the standout scenes in the movie.
I thought that stormtrooper would have somehow been force sensitive, and then he uses the force to kind of unbrainwash Finn, and then the Force Awakens was a reference to that.
Dude,
unfortunately, that's not what we got. And I'm gonna.
I
talk
never
about
considered that, but that to me right there,
that would have been great, dude.
Amazing.
Because like how like scared Finn is when he's running from them, like it would have made sense. And then so, there's a big shootout, and then we get introduced to the best boy of this whole trilogy, Kylo Ren.
Honestly, he is the standout.
I freaking love Kylo. Like as soon as he showed up and he had that look and that helmet and that robe, I'm like, yo, this dude means business, man.
And here's another thing that goes even deeper. This movie is meant to be a copy of the original Star Wars, and it kind of falls flat. But the fact that Kylo is a copy of Vader makes sense because it is his grandson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like he is idolizing Vader in a way that he shouldn't be, but that happens in real life. You know what I mean? That makes sense for a character, and we get to see his progression through the trilogy of him dealing with that attachment to Vader and Snoke. Okay.
Yeah, so I love all the concept. Layers that. So and then we also hear the First Order theme, which. I love that it's not just them trying to do another Imperial March, because the Imperial March, to me, when I hear it, it's basically like it makes me like think of those like villains in like classic bomb movies where they're like, yeah, see, I'm gonna kill you and your whole family. See, like it's basically the Empire flexing, like we're powerful. Oh yeah, check out how powerful we are. But the First Order theme has this like ominous vibe again. Yeah, I mean, this ominous vibe to it where it's like, we're not going to do any pageantry. We're just going to kill you. So watch out. Like, I love that they, took it in a different direction instead of just trying to, we should make the Imperial March again. I thought that was cool. It's a great theme. One of my favorite pieces of music, honestly, in the entire saga, if I'm being honest.
Rey's theme is also very, very good.
I love Rey's theme. So Kylo has a confrontation with the old man, and then I wish we had context for this because it's basically like the old guy knew Kylo when he was younger and still like training with Luke. So he's basically like, I know who you are before you called yourself Kylo Ren, and you were swayed down the dark side. And then Kylo's like, I'll show you the dark side. And then
See, that was a very like shallow.
The old man's like, you can't deny the truth that is your family. We don't know what that means yet. But, and I was watching this last night, and when it got to this moment, I was like, I wish we actually knew what was going on because I want to care about this, but I don't know who this dude is. I've never seen Kylo Ren before. So like, why are we referencing some past history and expecting I don't.
That would be like in A New Hope if Obi-Wan was literally referencing Vader as his father before we got the reveal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. The old guy should have been like somebody that we knew or something.
We knew, so and that didn't know Kylo who he was. Yeah.
It's fine to reference like a backstory with characters that we've never seen because one of them's new, but it would have been better if like the old guy was somebody we knew already. So then or maybe they could have tied it into the other movies or something, but it's like world building. It's
world building.
Character brutal, he's like force abilities.
No, the way they use the force in the sequels is great.
Oh yeah.
People just use it as a way to say, these movies are bad. Look, they're doing something different. Okay, look at the Old Republic and the crazy things they did in the Old Republic era. The sequels are just, expounding on the force and whatnot. So I liked it. I thought it was cool.
So then after that, Poe gets captured, and then Captain Phasma, who's
let's just skip over that whole character.
I'm gonna talk about I want to talk about Captain Phasma. Well, I do want to, but there's nothing to talk about.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There is nothing to talk about.
She's like, "Hey, Kylo, what do you want to do?" And then he's like, "Torch the village." And then she's like, "What about the villagers?" And then he says, "Kill them all." So, again, in A New Hope, Alderaan's blown up, but we don't see it, and it's like a, really quick second thing. I'm gonna reference that a little later for a key scene, but I love how in this movie we see carnage, man. Like we see, actual violence and stuff that wasn't really in the other movies, which is why I love this trilogy, even though it's heavily flawed, because it showed me things I've never seen before that it just clicks with me. So, they torch the village and the stormtroopers start firing on the villagers, except for one. And then Kylo notices that he isn't complying, and they have a quick exchange where they look at each other, and you could tell the stormtrooper's scared, and Kylo's like, what's with this dude? Okay. And then smash cut to our protagonist and a character that's been very divisive. I have a lot of stuff to say about her, both positive and kind of negative, but Rey. So, she's a scavenger. She's scavenging in a big, I don't know specifically what this ship's called. I guess a warship or something.
I want to say it was a Venador.
Yeah, like a crashed one, because Jakku has wreckage of old ships and stuff, which I love.
I think it was a Venador from the Clone Wars. I think
that's an example of world building that is just visual, and I love that stuff. I wish we had more stuff like that in these movies, but I'll take what I get. So, she, scavenges some parts, and then she rappels down like Indiana Jones or something. Or I guess Lara Croft would be a better example. And then she starts walking through Jakku. She sleds down a sandhill and then walks into the village square to trade in the parts for food, because these people essentially, they scrap or whatever, and then they have to trade it in for food because they're poor. Great world building, in my opinion, because it's just we see it and then we see how it works. Whereas a lot of the other examples of world building are just we hear about it and that's it. We don't really get a sense of how it's integrated. And then Rey meets BB-8, because I forgot to mention Poe gives BB-8 the map to Luke Skywalker because he's like, it's safer with you than with me, which, okay.
So I'll just add in here real quick. The Battle of Jakku was during the Clone Wars, so that's why I was thinking that. But the ship that crashed was the Inflictor, which was from a fight between the New Republic and the First Order. So
cool.
at least that's what I'm reading. So okay, multiple. So the Jakku wasn't a thing, but then when they came out with this, they like retroactively made Jakku a thing and everything. Like it's always been there. So it has a retroactively rich history. So,
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rey meets BB-8, and because he's this guy. I don't remember his name. He's like a little alien dude. Tries to capture him, and then Rey's like, "Yo, stop that!" And then he's like, "Oh, rats."
Best friends now.
And then like she's gonna leave him behind, and then makes her feel bad, and then she says, "Okay, you could come with me," which. I don't necessarily agree when people say, "Oh, this movie's just a ripoff of A New Hope," but like in this movie, the droids also are tied to the MacGuffin. Instead of R2-D2 having Princess Leia's message, BB-8 has the map to Luke Skywalker. Like it's like they didn't even try to like be different. Like, and he gets sent away after a battle too. Like come on, man. All right, so then.
And like, BB-8 was Poe Dameron's droid. R2 was Obi-Wan's droid.
Yeah, it's like, fine, whatever. So we smash cut to the First Order base, and Finn is helping Poe break out. Now, I love these two. They're dynamic right away. They're bond. They become friends quickly. I love that Poe gives Finn his name because he says, "Oh, well, what's your name?" And then Finn's like, FN2187, and then Poe's like, "What?" And then Finn's like, "That's the only name they ever gave me," which is a great line. That's
there we go.
Like
some
really,
world building,
like a sad, thing.
Yes,
like
character building.
These people don't have names; they just have numbers because the First Order views them as essentially disposable. They're just a cog in the machine. And then we have a great chase. I love when Finn blows up the one ship, and he's like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And then Poe's like, "Yeah, I saw it." I'm just like, "Yeah," which is one more reason why this is my favorite trilogy is that I'm going to touch more upon this a little later in more detail, but like aside from Luke and Anakin kind of later, because as a kid I didn't relate to Anakin at all, but like I've never really connected with characters in Star Wars movies, but this trilogy like introduced me to characters that I relate to, that I feel like are more real people than a lot of other characters in Star Wars. We love the prequels, but the characters there kind of feel like robots at times.
They feel very distant. Like they actually feel like more alien than human.
And like it makes sense for why the Jedi would be that way, but even other people are that way, and it doesn't entirely work for me all the time. But these characters, they feel like people that I've met in real life. I freaking love it. All right, so hold on. Now I got to rant for 5 seconds because Finn and Poe, they get shot down, and then they crash on Jakku, and then Finn like blacks out. He wakes up, and then he's far from the ship. How'd that happen? I don't know. And then he runs over to it. He's like, "Poe," he tries to pull Poe, and then it sinks into the sand, and then it blows up. So for the longest time, I was like, it's weird that Poe's just like written out of the movie for a while, like with no explanation. Well, there's an explanation. If you want to know what happened to Poe, read the Force Awakens novelization.
Yeah. Yep.
Keep that in mind for a Rise of Skywalker episode, by the way. So I'm gonna read you verbatim what happened to Poe, as I found on, I think like ScreenRant.com or something. Rather than making it out of the TIE fighter via ejection, Poe's jacket got caught in the cockpit, and he was forced to go down with the ship. He got ejected during the crash, landing far from the wreckage, unconscious like Finn. When he woke, he couldn't find Finn, but eventually ran into Naka Lit, a blaring scavenger. What? Poe manages to appeal for a ride back to civilization, and along the way, he saves Lit from raiders and lands himself passage with one of the scavenger's friends back to the Resistance and Finn. So my question is, you have this character who's clearly like important because he's the first new character we're introduced to. He's kind of like a stand-in for Han, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But then he has a sequence where like he's just gone, and then I'm gonna circle back around to it later. But like it's just hand waved, like, oh yeah, you know, I don't know, I couldn't find you. Okay, well, let's move on now. And it's like that's such a key thing that just feels like something that they had to cut out of the movie.
It's so shallow. It's just
and
shallow.
Then they just put it in the novelization, and I'm like, what? Got freaking Star Wars in their books that fill in stuff that the movie like. Anyway, okay, I just had to rant about that for 5 seconds because I've always thought that was dumb. So, what are your thoughts about that, by the way?
I think that is a problem that you will see just get more and more of like prominent throughout this trilogy, especially in the last movie. But
oh yeah,
it really begins here from the very beginning. Thanks, JJ. I like JJ, but he's so big picture that they miss very important details, and this is one of those things.
Oh yeah. All right, so then Finn grabs Poe's jacket and he starts wandering. He finds some water, which is like a water trough for big hippo thingies. I don't know what they're called. And the one thing I forgot to mention about this movie is the practical effects and the practical sets are peak. They're absolutely incredible. Yeah. You know, like BB-8 was actually a real droid that they built. I'm not sure, like, if it's always a real thing, but like, and there was just like clip that JJ did before the movie came out from like the set that was like supposed to be funny, where like he's like, you know, talking about the movie, and then like a creature walks behind him, and then he just turns around, like, but like it's a practical thing that they made. You know, I don't know if it was like someone wearing a costume or something, but it just looks so good. Like it looks like an extension of the original trilogy, and it's kind of one of the few things that I think really nails that. Instead of just being a retread, it's like a evolution of it.
What I really like is seeing the behind the scenes of that open, like we were describing the opening chase on Jakku, because it's a lot of practical effects, like the explosions. Yes, it's very interesting to see all of literally the practical effects they did.
I just assumed that for scenes like that, they would have like a lot of like VFX, but it's really cool to hear that a lot of it was practical.
Yeah. Like even the explosions in the sand, like where the sand gets shot up when they're running, like all that's real.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
All right, so then Finn meets Rey, and this scene's kind of weird because like Finn like sees Rey getting attacked, and he walks up to go to help her, and then she fights off the guys who are trying to capture her because Ankar Plutt said, "Oh, capture the girl and take the droid." Who was actually played by Simon Pegg, by the way.
Yes.
That's cool that he had a small role here, and he just got to be, you know, like a.
Also, Daniel Craig was in the movie.
Yeah, that's fun. And then Finn's like, "Oh, okay, I guess you got it." And then he just keeps standing there, and then he looks over and sees a BB-8 unit, and because he remembers Poe saying, "I have to find my BB-8 unit," because he has the map to Luke Skywalker. And then BB-8 looks at Finn, and he's like, "Hey, that guy stole my master's jacket." And then Rey, for some reason, like chases after him. It's like, why does she care? Like, she didn't really care about BB-8 until she did, in kind of a manufactured way, and now she's like, that guy stole your master's jacket? I'm gonna kick his ass. It's like, I feel like there was a more organic way the two of them could have met up. I mean, like, it's funny. Like, I love that when Rey's like, so you're with the Resistance, and then Finn's like, yeah, I am with the Resistance. I am with the Resistance. Like, you know, like he has a chance to like create like a new persona for himself because he was, robbed of his identity for his entire life. Like, that's great stuff. I love, the whole dynamic with Rey and Finn. It'd be a shame if stuff happened to kind of ruin that later on. But I'm glad
they
that didn't happen.
They had so much potential.
Oh yeah,
so much.
And then so
which we might see in the future. We might see the potential eventually develop into something. I don't want to say too much, but there are rumors and there are official announcements that people might be coming back. So
I mean, I know a lot of people were kind of burned by this trilogy, some of the stars, which I mean, rightfully so. But like, I hope if the script was great and there was actually a vision, a Star Wars vision. I'm sorry. Then they would be willing to return, because I want to see them actually get to fulfill the potential.
So I know John Boyega said he was done, but actually in a recent interview, I think about 2-3 days ago, that Daisy Ridley had, she said that she felt like she ruined Star Wars after watching, or after they made The Force Awakens. She thought that she ruined it, and they announced that she's officially coming back in a new movie.
Oh yeah.
So I'm actually interested. I mean, in that, I think they'll fix their mistakes. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I like Rey. For reasons I'll talk. But I don't know if I'd say I like her more than Luke, but I relate to her in a different way, and that's cool. Like, I don't really want to compare characters, but like, it's cool that like, I can relate to characters in a totally unique way. So they get chased by stormtroopers and stuff, and they're running around. They keep like falling down, and Finn keeps taking Rey's hand, which annoys her. I thought that was like a cute little thing, like a running gag. And then they're gonna steal a ship, and then Finn is like, "What about that one?" And then Rey's like, "That one's garbage." And then the one they wanted to is blown up, and then they're like, "Okay, we'll have to take the garbage." They turn around. What ship are they going to steal, Caleb? What ship?
Millennium Falcon.
I love it. Yeah, that was like,
it's good. That ship is a character.
When I saw that, I was immediately wondering, what's the Millennium Falcon doing here? That's weird. I wonder what the backstory is. So that was a fun little thing. So they steal a great chase, which culminates in them literally flying through like an old crashed ship, or a freighter. And, just like great. Like, I saw like a video, it was like analyzing this scene, and it's like they're literally having a chase scene through the ruins of old Star Wars movies.
Literally.
I thought that was cool. Like,
yeah.
Stuff like that. Where
I had a little bit of an issue with just how great of a pilot she was for her first time.
Yeah, and then she's like, I don't know how I did that. I've never left the planet. And it's like, I feel like I think like they should have had her
Luke
like
did
crash
the same thing,
a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it seems like she doesn't fly great, but she's pretty good at it. And yeah. So then we cut to Kylo Ren, who's finding out from one of his superiors that they got away. And this is one of the reasons people didn't like Kylo Ren is because he gets mad and he like throws fits. So
he was a little too much in this movie.
Unfortunately, I'm not proud to say that I can relate to having that kind of a temper. Sadly, it's absolutely gotten better, and I'm thankful for that. But like, I don't know. Sometimes you just have a bad day at work because all your coworkers are idiots. But so like, how do you feel about like that aspect of his personality? Like, what's your overall opinion on how that part of him was written? Like how
I didn't like it in The Force Awakens. I think once we got to see more of his character development and what he went through with Luke and whatnot in other movies, I kind of get it. I really like his character in the last movie. I think he is standout. But in this movie, it was just too much. It was too over the top.
A little bit.
I get it. I get it. You want to contrast the Sith and the Jedi. The Sith are rage, uncontrollable, anger, hate, and then the Jedi are the opposite. And you want to convey that, but Kylo was just too much. He didn't give you that menacing sense, especially at the end when he should have destroyed all of them easily. But he just seemed like he was so incapable in this movie, and his personality and his rage and his fits and his crying didn't help that very much.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like it's kind of like them taking that running thing of Vader force choking people if they like let him down, and they just like cranked it
they went
a little too up.
cranked it up
Yeah,
to a million. Yeah,
I do like his line though, where he's like, a droid still afraid, or like he's kind of like cheeky and sarcastic.
Oh, dude, his acting was amazing though.
And then when he grabs the guy and he says, "What girl?" I never noticed this until rewatching it last night, but his voice, which is usually like it's like this, and it's very calm, and I am in control, it breaks a little bit. I'm not sure if you picked up on that. Like, I was cool, like, which is where like I love that they slowly show that like this guy is kind of,
dude, I loved his character. I really did.
He's kind of the opposite of Vader, where like Vader, like that's who he was. Kylo Ren's playing that kind of part, but that's not actually who he is, and I love that, man. I love Kylo Ren. Yeah. So then they get away, and then the ship gets boarded by two brand new characters we've never seen. Oh no, wait, it's Han and Chewie, baby. Han and Chewie. Back. That was in the trailer, which I think they kind of shouldn't have put in the trailer, because then people wouldn't have known.
I have a theory. Because they had to show more of him, because obviously we were going to get a lot less of him going forward after this movie.
Yeah.
So they obviously could focus more on Luke in the next movies, because this was Han's movie. You know what I mean? That's my take on it.
Yeah, and I've already talked about this a few times with you, one time on the podcast, but Harrison's performance in this movie, peak Han Solo. I don't care. Yeah. That's just my opinion. He, because he has a tendency to like phone in performances sometimes. Like if you watched Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it doesn't feel like he wanted to be there at all.
It didn't even feel like he was actually there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, I never filmed that movie. I guess they use CGI. That wasn't a bad impression for just being off the cuff. But in this movie, you could tell he actually tried, and when he tries, he's freaking great, man. There's a reason he's one of the best actors maybe ever. Because he just has a presence about him, for sure. Like he has a gravitas to him, and there's a reason people love him, and he's a legend.
Yeah. There's a reason he even became Han Solo in the first place.
Exactly. And so now here's a part of the movie that I never noticed. I never really paid that much attention to, but it kind of stood out to me recently. So he says his name's Han Solo, and then Finn's like, "What, the general?" And then Rey's like, "No, the smuggler." So here's my question. In this universe, we see multiple times that some of the characters here have heard like stories, like fragmented stories about the characters from the other movies.
Yeah.
Like essentially
like
they become like legend. Yeah, like legendary heroes or people, whatever. So I'm curious to see what your interpretation of why this might be is, but like how would Rey not know that Han was also a general in addition to being a smuggler? I just think that's weird. Like it kind of seems like a flaw in the logic.
Yeah, that line's weird. I in the original trilogy, Han never wanted to even be a general, be that guy, even though he was. I personally
think that was a bad idea, but I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, but it's just weird they would even have this line, like, no, the smuggler. I think that was more for the audience and really didn't make sense in the context of Star Wars.
Yeah, I could see. I was gonna save this opinion, but I think I'll kind of bring it up now. I think like Finn should have been the one who was like sensitive with the Force and stuff, and Rey
Oh,
should have
definitely.
just been a smuggler like Han Solo. So then maybe that line could have made sense. Like she doesn't look up to Han because he was a
Yep.
general in the Republic, because she's not loyal to the Republic, but she
Dude,
likes him because he was a
Yeah.
like a well-known smuggler.
They maybe had that goal, that plan, and then they changed it along the way, because that seems like that was the case. And then something happened along the way where they switched roles.
Because like
so,
even like how she says it, she's like, no, the smuggler. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it seems like she's just trying to be like, who cares that he was a general? He was a smuggler, you know, like it's just a really weird thing.
He was the smuggler.
Yeah, it's like a really weird. So then Han's vessel gets boarded by both the Guavian Death Gang and Kanja Club. Now, I'm curious to see how you feel about the whole Rathtar sequence, because I feel like it's just absolutely a waste of time. Like it's
utter
fun, like
chaos.
I do like the dialogue, like Han's, you know, like I'm gonna do what I do best. I'm gonna talk my way out of it, and then Chewie says something, and then Han's like, "Yes, I do." Every time, you know, like their dynamic has always just been A1. You know, it's so fun. And then
Yeah.
you know, so like Han here, you know, he's back to being like his usual self, where like he's not as smooth as he thinks he is, you know, especially when he's up against people smarter than him. But like, it just feels like a Three Stooges. Like you could play the Benny Hill theme song over this entire sequence, and it would fit perfectly. Like it's just like slapsticky and weird, and it's like, oh, we have a really intense scene where these characters are here. How are our characters going to get out of this? How about Han's hauling these three creatures because he stole them to give to somebody else to get money? Why would he do that? He's never stolen, like, as far as we know. Like in the original trilogy, he just like stole like some stuff. You know,
if you want to understand
objects.
JJ,
I don't understand
Abrams.
Like,
yeah, if you want to know what kind of director JJ Abrams is, watch the first 25 minutes of this movie. It's the most JJ thing you will ever see.
Oh yeah. So, you know, the Rathars kill all the enemies, the Deus Ex Machina, number one in this movie. I'll say what the other one is later. And then, you know, they escape and jumped out of hyperspace. And then I love the dialogue where I think Han says like, well, I'll jump to hyperspace from the planet or something. And then Rey's like, is that possible? And then Han's like, I never asked that question until after I've done it. Like, that's a very Han line.
That is a Han line, yeah.
It's weird, like, she knew how to bypass the compressor, but Han didn't, and he's just, like, surprised. Like, that, like, I don't know, like, it just feels like the writers wanted to be like, oh, Rey's smarter than Han. And it's like, Han's been flying ships since before Rey was even a sperm cell. Like, what are you talking about right now?
Yeah,
like
that's a recurring theme as well.
So then, Finn Patches. Oh no, wait, no! I gotta talk about the meeting with Supreme Leader Snoke. He's like showing himself as a giant hologram. I thought that was cool. It was
a reference
like it's also
to, the Emperor.
It's cool, but like it's kind of one of those things. Like we're gonna retread the original movie, but it's different. You know, instead of the Death Star, it's a bigger Death Star. Instead of a hologram, it's a bigger hologram. Isn't that cool? And it's
okay,
like
I have a hot take.
I'm not 5 years old, so kind of.
I have a hot take. I liked Starkiller Base. I thought it was cool. I get it. It was another Death Star, and I don't know. Everyone's always had problems with it, and I cannot have a problem with it. I like it. I think it's actually really cool the way they built it into a planet. I think that was a great logical step to take the first movie of the sequels. That was one of my least of the problems I have with this movie. But yeah, it really is just a copy and paste.
Yeah, and there's a YouTuber named Jeremy Johns. And when I was listening to his spoiler review after I saw the movie, he pointed out something about Snoke that I don't know if it's been confirmed because he's one of those characters that kind of doesn't have a backstory except like in comics and other crap again because we got some merchandise. But he's like, when he saw the scar on Snoke's face, he's like, "Oh, you pissed somebody off, and that person had a lightsaber." So like implying that like it like looked like he got slashed in the face with a lightsaber. So if that's the case, that's another great example of like quiet world build, like quiet character building and backstory.
If they would have followed it.
Yeah. Like Snow, look, we're going to talk about Last Jedi next. That's going to be a whole enchilada, but
we're going to make popcorn before we sit down and talk about that.
I like how Snoke got treated in that movie, but I also kind of think it sucks. So anyway, we're back to our gang. Finn patches up Chewie because he got hurt. I thought that was fun because, like, you know, Finn's like scared of Chewie and stuff, and Han's trying to be like, "Hey, if you hurt Chewie, I'm gonna kick your ass." You know, I thought that was fun. And then I love that scene where like Han's like talking about, you know, because they bring up Luke Skywalker, and then Han, like, Harrison's performance here, all he does is just stop walking, look up, and change his expression, and you just know everything. Like, you could, like, if you didn't see the other movies and you just saw this one, you would be able to just watch just this scene and be like, Han and Luke have a big history together. Oh yeah, you know, like it's just written all over his face. It's just so good.
Yeah.
And then him saying, you know, I used to think that the Force was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but it's all true. And then Rey and Finn are just being like, what? Like they like look like children that have just been told like a really exciting story. They're like, what? And then what happened? You know, like it's I love that stuff.
But Han Solo is the best of, like, the best that they could get to do that. I don't think it would have been the same if they had another character do that, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Be that guy. Yeah.
So, and then they decide to go visit Maz Kanata and Takodana. And
such a dumb character. Okay, go ahead.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
A little
bit. Yeah, it's fine. So I love this line from Rey where she's like, "I never knew there was this much green in the entire galaxy." Because, like, she lived her whole life on Jakku, which is, excuse my French, an absolute shit. There are no pubs.
It's meant to be that way. Yeah.
There's no libraries. There are no Chick-fil-A's on Jakku, you know? So that must have been a miserable upbringing. So her seeing, like, a beautiful planet and being amazed by it is, you know, a really great writing touch that I love in this movie.
I did like that. I mean, I liked that part. The castle was cool itself. It was cooler in Star Wars Battlefront 2 as a map that you could actually explore, and it felt more than just a Yavin clone.
I would love it to be in,
my
like,
issue was just a Yavin clone. So.
I would love Takodana to be in, like, the next Jedi whatever game they decide to call it. That'd be awesome.
I would be for that.
That'd be cool. Yeah. And then another thing I noticed that, I mean, I picked up on it before, but I noticed it more recently is like Rey's kind of like a younger Han Solo in a way. Like, she's impulsive, and like I love that moment where he gives her a blaster, and then he's like, "Do you know how to use one though? Do you know how to use one of those?" And then she's like, "Yeah, you pull the trigger." And then he's like, "There's a lot more to it than that. You have a lot to learn." Like that, you know, like
that's something he would have said.
Though,
yeah.
You know, like it kind of gives echoes to how Han was portrayed in Solo, a Star Wars story, a little bit. So now we enter Takodana and the Mos Eisley Cantina. Wait. Oh no, Maz Kanata's Cantina. Sorry, I got confused.
Yeah, you got him a little mixed up there.
I'm not sure how that happened. So
yeah.
What do you think of this place overall? Because, I mean, it's obvious what it's supposed to be an analog to, but how do you feel about it just by itself, trying not to compare it too much?
I think I liked it for the potential I thought it had, but in the end, the best thing that it contributed was a great fight sequence at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Like it really had like they could have went literally anywhere else. And
yes, and
I don't think it would have mattered.
It seemed like they fumbled it. There was a lot of potential, which it's another theme. I don't care about the fact that they set up. They had Luke's or Anakin's lightsaber there. I think that was weird. They never explained how it got there, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So
I got some stuff to say about that.
okay.
I got so then we smash cut to Kylo Ren. He's talking to somebody. We don't know who he's talking to, but he's like, I feel it again. The pull to the light side, which is
Love
a
it.
brand new thing we've never
Love
seen
it.
before. Somebody being pulled to the light side. I love it. Fantastic. And then, he's like, by the, show me the power again, and by your grace or whatever, I will not. Oh no, wait. I think he's like, show me how, grandfather. And then he stands up, and then whose head do we see? Jar Jar Binks. Kylo Ren is Jar Jar Binks' grandson. That was a really bold choice. Nah, it's Vader's helmet.
That would have been more interesting.
That would have been, like just people would have been like, what the?
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But yeah, he's talking to Vader's crushed helmet, which I guess, I don't know exactly where he would have gotten that, but we don't know, so screw us for being curious. But, and like, I feel stupid because I should have been like, he's Han Solo and Leia's son. Leia's father is Anakin Skywalker. So yeah, that'd be his grandfather. But for some reason, I never thought about that. And then when it's first revealed, I was like, wait, that's his grandpa? And it's like, yeah, that's how genetics work. Why are you surprised? So that was fun. That's JJ's mystery box storytelling, which I'm going to talk about later because I got some issues with that. So then, here's another way that Rey's written that I don't understand, and I never really noticed until recently. So, Maz Kanata, Finn, and Rey and Han are talking, and then Maz was like, so you try to run from the fight, and now you're right back in it again, Like, it's, like, that's an interesting thing to think about, that, like, the Force wants Han to, like, be a part of the fight against the Empire and stuff. Like,
would you say that he was Force sensitive in this movie?
I'm trying to think of like when, like what reactions or whatever from him we see that could have gave that impression. What about you?
Maybe not in like a traditional way where we think of that, but
I mean, he's at least like, he doesn't see the Force as like some stupid thing that's not real anymore. So like he has respect for the Force, which like, yeah, like maybe it's interesting because the Force is a living thing. So maybe like he has kind of an unspoken relationship with the Force in a way.
It's just, I like how they kind of make it more, they play around with the Force more in this, and I like that. It makes it less what am I trying to say? It makes it less one note. It makes it more complex. You know what I mean?
So Rey, so Maz is talking about, he's back in the fight, and then Rey being an absolute. I mean, I get it, but she's like, what fight? And it's like, so Rey heard these stories, right, about like, the Jedi, Sith, and all that stuff, the Empire, the Republic.
Yeah.
But somehow she doesn't know that there's still a conflict going on, even though she's lived in the exact same place her whole life. So it's like, how does she know what anything is? Like, it seems like the writers have her know about certain things, but then she doesn't know about other things, and I don't understand that. Like, it's not entirely consistent.
Welcome to a JJ movie.
Yeah, it's like, sometimes Ray's, you know, like savvy about stuff, and then sometimes she's like an absolute moron. I don't get it. And then, you know, like Finn has this whole thing where he's like, you know, we're not gonna fight the First Order, you know, we have to run from them. And then in one of the stupidest scenes I've ever seen in anything, Maz starts like adjusting her glasses, and then she like crawls close to Finn and starts like looking at him, and then all that just to say, if you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
I like that line.
I'm
bro.
looking into the eyes of a man who wants to run. Yeah, but like she should have just, or like it. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably because she's really old and she can't see very well, so she had to do that.
Maybe actually, that's a weird. Yeah, that weirdly could be the reason.
Okay, you know what? I take back my criticism. Imagine. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think they meant it in that way, but I think that's the right way to interpret that line. If you know what I mean.
Like Finn's like, Han, what's she doing? And then Han's like, I don't know, but it ain't good. Like, I think you ticked her off now, boy. And then so you know, Finn wants to leave, and then Maz is like, well, there are these two guys over there who can bring you to the Outer Rim. And then Finn, you know, he just walks, and then. That's actually really funny. Interesting piece of writing about Rey that I noticed. Catch my breath. Is that, you know, throughout the whole movie she keeps saying, "Oh, I have to go back to Jakku." You know, like I have to wait for my family. Like she doesn't want any part of anything that's not familiar to her.
Like Han.
But then, as soon as Finn is about to leave, she encourages him to not just run away, which is exactly what she's been doing. And I was, in my head, I was like, that kind of seems like a contradiction a little bit, right? No, because here's how I see it.
Okay.
In a way, because you have to remember, Rey has no friends. She's never had any friends. She's never had a connection to anybody because she's been alone her whole life, and she had to, you know, raise herself, essentially. She was her own mother and father, essentially. So, you know, she met Finn and formed not a really close bond, but, you know, they went through some stuff together and, you know, they got along relatively well. So, like, I feel like in her mind, if she lets him go, she's essentially losing the only connection she's ever had. And we know that one of the few things about her that has always been consistent is that she's always looking for a family. Yes. So it's like, in this scene, I feel like her instincts, she went against her own instinct to, you know, run away and just, you know, wait for her family, because she's like, oh, but I don't want to lose you, Finn, because you're the only person I've ever connected to. And I think that's great. You know, like their whole, I freaking love, I got choked up when Finn was like, you know, I ran from the First Order and I ran right into you and you looked at me in a way that nobody else ever did. And it's like, that's why these are my favorite characters in Star Wars. That's why this is my favorite trilogy, because of freaking moments like this that I never had before in any of the other movies. I love it.
Good. Yeah, I agree with you. That is good. That is a good take.
So here we get, by the way, for those who are listening, if you are somebody who drinks alcohol, I have a fun drinking game I can propose to you, but be responsible because it could kill you.
Oh no.
Take a shot every time I say,
no.
Well, yeah. Oh God. But every time I utter the phrase I'm about to utter, plot point that goes
nowhere.
Plot point that leads to nothing. It's an acronym. PPTLTN. Plot point that leads to nothing. Rey hears voices. I think it's like her crying as a kid or something, and she goes to the basement and she finds a chest with a lightsaber in it. And then she has this whole trippy experience where she sees like all these visions from the Force and stuff. Now, I want to talk about this scene in two ways. One, in a vacuum, and then one in kind of a little bit of the overall scope. So in a vacuum,
Can I just say something real
Yeah.
quick? I'm pretty sure that the voices she hears, I'm pretty sure it's a mixture of Ewan McGregor and Alec
Yeah.
Guinness's Obi-Wan.
yeah, I'm gonna bring that up, but yeah, I'm
Okay,
glad you. Yeah.
okay.
So let's see. I don't remember the order, but like it's basically she sees Kylo and the Knights of Ren, killing Luke's students and setting fire to the place and revolting. Essentially, she sees her as a kid on Jakku when her parents left her behind. She sees like the third act of the movie when they meet up with Kylo Ren in the forest, except he's wearing his helmet, and in the movie he's not wearing his helmet, but that's not a plot hole. Shut up. And then so I like this scene for a few reasons. In a vacuum, again, one because it's like we've typically when the Force is presented, it's usually like kind of this like peaceful Zen thing that like sure the Sith use it in violent ways, but like anytime like a Jedi's meditating or something in the Force, except for like Anakin and sometimes Luke, like the Force isn't always portrayed as like being like scary. But dude, in here, the Force is terrifying, dude. Like she sees all these things from the Force and hears, all these voices, Yoda and Obi-Wan. Put a pin in the Obi-Wan thing because I'm gonna come back to it. I don't know when, but just remember that. But
Okay.
she hears Anakin and all that stuff. She sees Luke putting his hand on R2D2. What does all this stuff mean? Mystery box. J.J. Abrams loves his mystery boxes. He gave this TED talk where it's like, yeah, when I was a kid, my grandfather or uncle got me this thing called a mystery box. And, I've never opened it up because the idea of not knowing what's in the box has always been appealing to me. And then
That's something he said.
he goes on to talk about how movies...
Is that really something he said?
Yeah, like how movies are essentially mystery boxes. Because, like when you watch the original Star Wars, it's like, oh, they're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who's Obi-Wan Kenobi? Mystery box, all these things he calls mystery boxes. The problem with mystery boxes is that he doesn't always put something in the damn box. So you finally open it and it's filled with nothing. So
yeah, that's
like,
dependent on the person to want to open it or not.
Yeah, like,
and if they do, there's nothing in it. Yeah,
that's why I say in a vacuum, I love this scene. But plot point that leads to nowhere. It doesn't lead to anything in retrospect because JJ wanted to set up all these mystery boxes. That's a problem unless you know for a fact that you're going to do the whole trilogy. Don't do that. Because what happened is what happened. Other people took the reins and they didn't quite go in that direction. So now we have scenes like this that lead to absolutely nowhere. So what are your thoughts on this whole scene, its place in this movie, why Luke's lightsaber called to Rey for some reason? I don't know why the lightsaber is even there. I'm going to talk about that, but yeah. So
it's a way of establishing the Skywalker lineage. Because for some reason they decided to have, to make sure that Luke didn't have any kids, but Kylo couldn't be the hero. So they should have just went with Finn being his own Jedi outside of the Skywalker lineage, which is why this didn't need to be part of a Skywalker saga. Like they wanted it to. It's just like a
really weird scene.
Yes.
I'm gonna go fill my glass real quick, so you could just edit this part out of the final product.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back, so I'll just pick. Okay, and then Maz Kanata comes down there because she knew that Rey found the edibles that she had locked up in the kitchen.
That's funny.
And then, dude, this moment always chokes me up every single time. You know, like Maz, you know, like Ray was like, "What was that?" She's like, you know, just in tears, you know, scared. You know, Daisy Ridley's performance, incredible, and it only gets better.
Yeah,
in my opinion. She was a great choice to be the lead.
I think so too. Yeah,
You know, the freaking line from Maz that always chokes me up is you know that whoever you're waiting for is not coming back, but there's someone who could, and that, you know, the acceptance on Ray's face, because, you know, I'm sure we've all experienced, you know, like friendships or whatever that, like, it seems like the other person, for whatever reason, like, they're never available. Like, it seems like they kind of forget about you, and you're just kind of, you know, left in the dust, and you're like, what the heck happened, you know? And it's like, you know, like, one of the most painful things of life is having to accept that, you know, certain people are eventually going to leave your life and they're not coming back, you know? And that's
until they do in the third movie.
That's one of the reasons that I really relate with Ray, because, you know, I have trouble, you know, like, looking ahead and not dwelling on the past and stuff. So, and then I like how she included Luke in there, because it's like I'm gonna read exactly what I wrote because I think it's kind of poetic. By helping Luke come back from his exile, she, as in Ray, can free herself from her emotional exile.
Yeah.
In other words, answering the call to the Force. You know, like, she helps to bring back Luke. Maybe that'll free her too. You know, it's kind of this interesting thing. Like, you know, like, I like the idea of Ray and Luke's paths kind of being tied, not in like a familial way, but like in the like, it's like that whole thing, you know, of like in Christianity when like you feel led to like pray for somebody or something like that. Like, kind of that idea. Like, I like to think that the Force is kind of like that too. Like, it like says, oh, somebody over here is in trouble. I'm going to pick you. I'm going to choose you, you know, to help them out. And then in turn, that'll help you out, you know, because it's like a cycle.
And Ray did help
that's
Luke. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah.
One of the few things that actually feels paid off.
Yeah.
Where am I? Oh,
I know.
So then, another incredible scene, the test of Starkiller Base. You know, people were like, "Oh, you know, Han Solo, and you know he has the droid, and he has, you know, Finn and the girl. You know, it seems like we're in a tough spot." So Snoke said, "We could test our weapon. We don't know what that is yet, but." Here's a hot take. I think this sequence is better than the destruction of Alderaan, because the destruction of Alderaan sucks. It's bad. It's just like,
it is a weird part.
Fire the Death Star, boom, and then Leia's like, no, and then she's sad about it for like 2 seconds, and then she never talks about it again. But here, dude,
the best part of that is you're right. All of that is bad. But the best part of that is whenever Obi-Wan senses something.
Yeah.
And it can show off the Force in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So, but dude, this sequence is haunting, somber, intense, because my biggest problem with the destruction of Alderaan is that we don't know anybody on Alderaan aside from Leia, and we haven't known her for that long in the movie to really care that much. You know, to like empathize with her that much. It's like, damn, okay, that sucks. But like here, we see some of the people on some of these planets, and you know, they're like, you know, gathering together, and they're like watching this, and they're like terrified, and it's like they know they're gonna die. You know, I'm like watching the shots of the red beams, you know, like flying past like certain characters' faces, and them just like watching it in horror, like freaking Kylo Ren's just watching it like, you know, like he doesn't care at all. Like it's such a great moment. I love the cinematography, the shot composition, the soundtrack, the lighting, everything about this is just absolutely incredible. And it shows you that the First Order means business, man. I mean, it sucks that we don't really know who they are and what they're about, but they still mean business. So then, as Rey runs away, Finn leaves with Maz Kanata. And I hate this moment. I said I was going to come back to the lightsaber. Han says, "How do you have that?" Because it's Luke's lightsaber. And what does Maz say? That's a good question for another time. Are you freaking kidding me? Come on. But I don't hate it because we didn't get like a big backstory necessarily. My problem is that if they weren't going to actually have an explanation, then why have the damn lightsaber in the movie at all? Why? It
was such a dumb decision, dude. Like, it didn't need to be there for any reason.
Like, what about this? How about Maz has like a chamber where she meditates and connects to the Force, and then Rey felt that, and that's why she went down there. Why did it have to be Luke's lightsaber? What the hell?
Don't ask me, dude.
What the hell?
I guarantee you, I don't know. I guarantee you, no one knows.
And it's weird because Lawrence Kasdan was one of the writers on this movie, and he worked on the original trilogy, like at least Empire and I think A New Hope. Like, so I just want to know what happened here. Like, JJ's mystery box. That's a question for another time. Ooh, mystery, intrigue. No, screw you, dude. Like, you're like
I think
a 5-year-old
he probably
kid
thought
with a
Star
Super
Wars
Soaker.
fans. Yeah, the problem is he's making this 4 or 5-year-old kid with Super Soakers, and we're here discussing it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. All right, so I do love that the lightsaber's here because we have this moment where Finn is like, "I need a weapon," and then Maz is like, "You have one," and then Finn ignites the freaking lightsaber and starts fighting, and you know what? He's pretty good. It's almost like he should have kind of been sensitive with the Force and known how to use a lightsaber and then learn how to use it better. Yeah. It's almost like that should have happened, right? Because otherwise, Finn using a lightsaber just feels like fan service. Like they just had to have somebody using the original protagonist lightsaber. And they chose Finn, even though they weren't
going to commit to it.
I don't get it. And then Poe returns to join in the fight, which is cool, I guess. I don't know. He's really had like nothing to do in this movie, so I liked him, but I didn't care about Poe yet because it's like, bro, you vanished for like half an hour. What's going on? And then so Rey runs into the forest, and I didn't notice this until it was pointed out in a YouTube video that like it kind of seems like Rey like keels over a little bit like Obi-Wan does, because like that's close to when Star Killer Base like blows up a whole bunch of planets, and it seems like she's kind of reacting to possibly feeling that like Obi-Wan did.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Like that
would be cool if they would have played into that though. That's one of the things where it's like, like.
I think that should have been Finn though. Like Finn, like when he's fighting with the lightsaber, and then like he like, or not like maybe like, because in Rise of Skywalker they just pull directly out of their asses that he's sensitive to the Force, but it's like, what if in this movie like he would have felt something, and then Han or somebody would have been like, "Yo, dude, are you okay?" And then Finn's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I just got like really tired for a second."
And then don't explain it because we have already had it explained in a movie from the 70s.
Because like the fans immediately would have been like, "Oh shit," But
yeah, they'll know.
And then so Rey and Kylo have a confrontation. I love that Kylo's like, "You're the girl I've heard so much about, and you're nothing but a scavenger." Like he like and like again with Daisy Ridley's performance, like she's just absolutely terrified. Like
she did a great job. She
their
really
dynamic's great. And then a ship pulls down to the planet, like a big vessel or whatever. The doors open, and who steps out? C-3PO, and he has a red arm, and he's.
This is when I was like, okay, Luke's coming in, but no, we got C-3PO with a red arm. That you have to read a book to figure out why.
I don't. Oh my god! Screw the freaking books. I'm throwing them on a bonfire.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't mind him in this movie because he has like 3 scenes. I don't really like him that much. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but and then I freaking love their dialogue. They see Leia and Han see one another, and it's been a long time, so they're like not sure how to react. And then Han's like, "You've changed your hair," and then she's like, "Yeah, I did." Same jacket, and then Han's like, "No, it's a new jacket." Like, frickin', I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yep.
And then so they go back to the First Order base, to talk about what are we gonna do? They have a weapon. It's another Death Star. Somebody literally says they have another Death Star or something like that, and it's like. Just pisses me off. I hate it so much. Like, why do you have to draw attention to it? Like, if you're gonna be lazy, just be lazy. I don't want you to gloat about how you're being lazy. Like, you think you're clever. Like,
it's literally meant for like such casual fans that are like, "Oh wow, it is another Death Star." It's like, yes,
cool, okay, great. And so here, I think we're introduced to what I think is the most important plot point in the entire movie. Are you ready to know what it is? No. R2-D2's in a coma. I'm going to come back to that because it sucks.
That's a conversation for another time. It
sucks. It's garbage, and I hate it. And dude, I brought this up in our hot takes episode, but the conversation Han and Leia have. Like where like Leia doesn't really want to hear what Han has to say, and then he's like, just listen to me. Like, and it's like I never noticed that small moment, but it's like he like kind of breaks a little bit, and he's just like emotional. Like, I just want to be heard. Yeah. I just want to talk to you because you're the woman I love, and Leia loves Han, so she hears that like he's desperate, to communicate with her again, and she's like, "Oh crap, okay, you want to talk to me?" Like, it's everything with them is just so good. And talking about like, I feel like when you look at me, you're reminded of our son, and like how I freaking love what Leia said too when she was like, I shouldn't have sent him away. That's when I lost him. That's when I lost you both. Yeah. Like, oh god, just right there, man. Just I choke up every time. And then one of my other favorite moments is Rey's in the interrogation chamber and Kylo Ren comes in. He wants to search her mind to see where the droid is or where the map is, because he's like, "Oh, you've seen the map. I could just read your mind. I don't have to bring the droid because he's stupid and he didn't think of that." And then like, Kylo's like, "You still want to kill me?" And then Rey's like, "That's how you feel when you're chased by a monster or something." So, in a moment that a lot of people kind of had a problem with because they thought it made him less intimidating, he takes off his helmet and he's just a regular dude. Now,
he's just a guy.
I want to talk a little bit about this and him overall a little more complex. But so I'm going to throw it to you first. When he took off his helmet and he wasn't intimidating at all, how did you feel about it? Like, did that like kind of like take you out of, the gravitas of that character, or were you like interested because it's like, oh, he's a regular dude? Okay, that's interesting.
That's a good question. I never really thought about it. That is a great question. I don't know. I've really
Oh,
never thought about that.
I heard
Him
uh,
under the mask.
I heard some people say, and I agree. In the Honest trailer, they give like funny nicknames to the characters, like when the video's done, like starring, so and then for
Yeah.
Kylo Ren, they called him Better Anakin. And look, I love Anakin. His fall to the dark side. It's not perfect, but I think it's pretty written well. But when I was watching this movie, I was like, and Jeremy Johns feels the same way too. I
Yeah.
was like, this is what I wanted from Anakin. This is what I wanted more of that we kind of didn't get. Like him, not just falling to darkness, but he's just conflicted. Like I felt that way more from Kylo Ren than I did from Anakin in a
Well,
lot of
I
ways.
definitely feel. Yeah, I definitely feel like he did better with feeling conflicted because, like you said, this is the first time we've seen a Sith being pulled to the light side. I like that aspect. Now, in terms of how he looked, you know, like just kind of like a normal guy. I I liked it because it made you think that there was more to him and how he went from being Han and Leia's son to this guy. And then we see that in the next movie, and I don't think they pay off on it that well, the way they portray it in the next movie. But I when I saw that, I was like, okay, wow, this really is his grandson. This is a Skywalker. This is their son. And then you get to see the amazing interaction between Han and Kylo, shortly after.
Yeah, that's like one of the reasons that I can't totally agree with the criticism that this movie's just a retread of A New Hope, because I think it has
Yeah,
enough unique twists on things to make it stand out, but not quite as much as it should. But I mean, like with this, like because like people, because that scene in Empire when you see Vader putting on his helmet and like you see like that split-second shot of the back of his head and it's like all scarred. So
yeah,
like people automatically were like, oh, he probably Kylo Ren probably looks kind of like that, but it's like, oh no, he's just a guy. Like he's essentially cosplaying as a more intimidating character than he is, and I think that's really fascinating.
definitely.
So then, he starts to interrogate Rey's mind, which is another new force power that I really like, because it's kind of like how the characters react like they're in pain. It's like he's creating like a force shovel and like literally digging into their minds and like scooping stuff out, like like it hurts their heads or whatever. Like it's just brutal. And at first, Rey's obviously like in pain and like really sensitive to it and stuff and trying to fight it. But then, and I freaking love this with very little words, just based on the cinematography, the framing, the sound design, you slowly feel like she's starting to fight back a little bit through the force. And then, dude, that moment where like she kind of like leans forward and then that's her like taking control and now she's in his mind. Every time when that shift happens, I physically feel it in my chest, like I'm being punched in the chest, and it's just because of the sound design.
Again,
It's
the
so
way
good.
they do the Force is so
Yeah.
good in the sequels. It really is.
And then, freaking brutal line by Rey. She's like, "You're afraid that you'll never be as strong as Darth Vader," and then Kylo's, he gets fed up and just walks out. Like, I love that because it's like he's probably been like the top dog for a long time now. And now he's finally coming up against somebody who, sees right through his BS and he doesn't know how to react to it. It just throws him for a loop. I love that. Like, I love a villain. Like it's cool to see villains that are just powerful and stuff and evil, but like, I love villains that, have like layers to them and you could study.
Definitely. Yeah.
I wish we had more fights like this in Star Wars where it's not even just people using the Force to like hurt each other, but just people playing mind games with the Force. Like I'm surprised we haven't
Dude,
seen
what they
that much
do
of
in
it.
the next movie is so good with the
Oh,
Force.
dude, it's one of the best parts. Okay, so How do you feel about Rey doing the Jedi mind trick? Because I
liked it. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I liked it.
I
thought
kind
it
of
was.
look at it as
I
like
thought it was interesting.
that moment in a superhero movie when the main character starts to play with their powers a little bit. Like she's heard of, a Jedi mind trick, because it's not exactly, some people were like, how does she know how to do a Jedi mind trick? And then the YouTuber Cosmonaut Variety Hour, he's like, everybody in Star Wars knows what a Jedi mind trick is. Even Watto knows what a Jedi mind trick is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so like, I
Yeah.
kind of like the idea that she's like, oh, I have this power. Okay. So next, we cut to Finn and Han arriving at Starkiller Base. I think like they like crash. I don't remember why that
So-
was.
Okay, so here's why. Because the only way they could, so obviously the New Republic could not attack Starkiller Base because of their shields, and Han was like, "Well, what Leia said, Han, how are we gonna get onto Starkiller Base?" And Han said, "If I tell you, you're not gonna like it." And he doesn't say anything.
Oh
So
yeah.
when he's in the ship with Finn, he's saying their shields are at a certain frequency that stops anything from going through it that is traveling under the speed of light. So
Oh yeah, that's
Han,
right.
Han looks at Finn and he's like, "We got to stop," inside of Starkiller Base, coming out of the speed of light. So they that's why they kind of crash land.
I don't know how I forgot that.
It's a
Yeah,
cool it's a
so,
cool little thing that they add. Like it's like the world, it's lore.
So
World building.
it's a and then Finn's like, yeah. So remember when I said that I was like an engineer at Starkiller Base? Well, oh no, wait, no.
I lied.
Han asked like what he did at Starkiller
Yeah.
Base, and he said sanitation, and then
Yeah.
Han's like, what, sanitation? Like because he made it seem like he like was an engineer or something, and then he was like, honestly, dude, I'm just here to rescue Rey. Which is
That's it.
admirable, but unfortunately would start a trend of Finn being like Rey's lapdog.
But here's a really cool detail. I don't know if a lot of people caught. What does the sanitation person for the Death Star or Starkiller Base do? They throw things into a trash compactor.
Yeah.
So that's like a nice little nod to A New Hope.
It was funny too, because after this movie came out, Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, he like tweeted about it or something, kind of like a fun thing, because in the first Clerks movie, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they have like this whole conversation about because one of the guys watched Return of the Jedi, and then he's like, yeah, I don't like the ending because the second Death Star is blown up, but like they had all these independent contractors and stuff that were constructing it, and like a lot of these people, plus like just the regular like people that were just in like lower level positions that had nothing to do with the war or anything, just they were killed, they were like casualties of a war they had nothing to do with. So then Kevin Smith was like, hey, the new Star Wars movie took like kind of a joke idea that I had about like like a stormtrooper being a janitor or something.
Yeah, but that's cool. I think so. I think Finn, just speaking of like stormtroopers, or are they still called stormtroopers in this?
Yeah.
I think so. So I just know they added like a bunch of new ones, but it's so cool to see a stormtrooper like defect. Like that's one of the coolest things that could have happened.
Yeah, that's like another reason why whenever people say, "Oh, this is like a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope," it's like, yeah, because my favorite part of A New Hope is when they meet that one stormtrooper who doesn't want to be a stormtrooper anymore.
Yeah, the stormtroopers
that never
have
happened.
conscience. Yeah,
like like it's a great new thing.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
So Han is obviously like annoyed at Finn for lying, and then I like that line where he's like, we'll figure it out. We'll use the Force. And then Han's like, that's not how the Force works.
Yeah,
and then,
so good.
I like that exchange with Han and Chewie, where Chewie says something, and then Han's like, oh, really? You're cold? You know, like
he
I was
screams and he's like, "Oh, you're cold."
it's so good to see like somebody else writing Han and Chewie's relationship, but it feeling exactly like it did in the original trilogy.
Yeah,
You know, like
definitely Han and Kylo are the standouts, and then I put Finn up there, but definitely Han. He was awesome in this movie.
I got okay. All right, so then starts the assault on Starkiller Base, which I've always found this whole section of the movie not that interesting. One, because like the assault itself from the whole squadron and stuff, like like I think of like how intricately filmed and edited and stuff the trench run was in A New Hope, and like this, it's not bad, but like it doesn't have that same like intensity, I guess. Like it's still
it's shot
shows the
like,
perspectives of all the pilots
Yeah.
and stuff, but it's like it's not the most exciting thing to watch.
It's like the Marvel thing where it's like, oh, you love Marvel cinematography, and then it just shows a green picture. That's pretty much what this was, even though it was cool. But there was something cool about seeing the like using miniatures, in the
like,
original.
and
It was
then
just
plus
had a
like how
quality to it.
like great the effects have been, whether practical or the VFX have been for
Yeah.
the rest of the movie up until now. This whole sequence is like, it feels like weirdly sterile and gray, like it doesn't pop in any way. And then even zooming in a little bit to Han and Finn and Chewie, trying to rescue Rey and navigating the base, like like in A New Hope, again referencing that movie, when they get to the Death Star and stuff, and they have to like make their way through, and they steal the stormtrooper outfits. Like they're constantly experiencing like roadblocks that they have to overcome. So
this
like
one,
it
was just so convenient.
Intensity. It has that those stakes. Because like it's like if we make one wrong move, we're gonna get caught, and we might die, and we might not
Like
be
you
able
said,
to rescue Leia and stuff, and
like you said earlier, this could have been a Three Stooges skit, because when they go into like a hallway that is just empty for some reason, Finn is freaking out. He's like, okay, well, how are we gonna find Rey? We got to find her, and you're just sitting there nodding your head.
And then Han's, like he's like, why are you nodding? And then he turns around, and then Rey's just climbing a thing, and it's
just like, okay.
I don't think she really needed you, dude. Like, there's no reason for you to even be here. Like, whereas in A New Hope, if, Han, Luke, and Obi-Wan hadn't been there, she wouldn't have made it out of there. She still would have been a prisoner, but, like, Rey, is a pretty, self-sufficient character, so it's kind of like, this whole thing feels like a waste of time, and I think the crowning achievement of the wasting time Sunday is when they bump into Phasma and they like hold her hostage, and then they throw her down. When she has
armor that,
like she.
Okay, hold on.
I get
Keep
it. Like,
talking. I got you.
I get it. Like like I get like Chewie is a pretty formidable foe. So like her fighting Chewie wouldn't have been easy, and maybe he would have annihilated her after a struggle, but dude, she could have easily kicked Finn and Han's ass. You have a rookie stormtrooper and an elderly smuggler who is also a general, kind of, but is still not exactly like a top tier fighter, holding you hostage, and you shut down the shields, like they say. Like, yeah, like she triggers the alarm and stuff like that, and she's like, you didn't think it'd be this easy, but they throw her down a trash chute, and we never hear about that again. So it's like Phasma, like, I have this idea of like a short film or something where like Phasma like gets out of the trash chute, and then like maybe like some of the other stormtroopers and people find out about that, and they're like laughing at her like, oh my, I can't believe you look so stupid right now. Like, she's just an absolute joke throughout this entire trilogy, and it's weird because like she in The Last Jedi, like she's Finn's main antagonist, because she represents like, his enslavement, and his like fighting her was like the final thing he needed to do to like be set free, from a psychological and emotional standpoint.
So,
But
yeah. Speaking of her,
they barely fleshed that out because she's just written as a joke constantly.
Her entire existence is
even right out of the gate
on paper.
I just want to know like what happened, like what went wrong, because
I
don't know.
I'm reading about her on Wikipedia, and apparently she was a last minute addition to the Force Awakens film. I don't see why, but anyways,
that makes sense.
Her armor is made of chromium, which was salvaged from a Naboo yacht that had once belonged to Emperor Palpatine. And I mean, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
She wears it, helps reduce radiation, but she wears it primarily as a symbol of past power. She says a Wookiee wouldn't be able to crush it with all their strength, and that also it is blaster fireproof, as exampled when Rose Tico failed to kill her with a blaster pistol. However, when Finn holds her hostage with a gun up to her armor, how does that work? She's literally like,
why would she have cared? She's like, why would gonna shoot me? You
at one point, he
idiot.
puts the blaster like under her helmet, but before that, it shouldn't even have got to that point.
Yeah, and then I think the biggest tragedy about Phasma is that she was played by Gwendolyn Christie, who was most famous at the time for playing Brienne of Tarth in a little known show called Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and
that might be why.
This to her.
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding, dude? She could have been I've never watched that show, but she could have been Vader, like Kylo Ren's inverse Vader. She could have been actual Vader, just a woman, but still imposing, powerful, badass. But instead, there's just nothing to say.
Because it had to have been last minute, because like you said, she could have had such a prominent role, but it was so last minute that was the best they could do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
yeah. Anyway, I didn't think we'd rant about Phasma that long, but
that's kind of. I mean,
I will rant. I could talk shit on Phasma for the rest of my life. Okay, so one more small little thing I want to mention. It's like a fun little trivia fact before we move on here. Is that one of the pilots in the assault is played by an actress named Jessica Henwick, who is one of the many loves of my life. Yeah. And check this out. I don't know if you knew this, but she was originally in talks to play Rey. And I saw a quote from her where she
that is her.
regrets not accepting the offer to play Rey. But, she has a small role here, and she was in the Marvel shows, Iron Fist and Defenders and stuff like that. I feel like she's an actress who never really got her due in the sense of the kind of roles that she's been in, because she has so much more potential as an actress than a lot of what she's been in. She actually did an independent movie recently that I really want to see, because it's finally, she's gonna be able to flex her muscles. But I'm actually glad that she didn't play Rey, because considering how this trilogy turned out, I wouldn't want her to have her reputation affected by that.
So it's funny because apparently someone asked her recently if her character survived the final battle in The Rise of Skywalker, and she said that Jess Pava is alive and well. You can read up on all her adventures in a new spin-off comic book, so don't worry, she's doing great. She's living her best life.
That's the only spin-off book that I want to read, because
she's an X-Wing pilot that's featured in numerous issues of the Poe Dameron comic series. So that's actually cool.
Awesome. Okay, so kind of fast forwarding because it's just a little bit of nothing. They have these detonators that they're gonna put on various parts of the thermal oscillator, which at least the weakness to the big weapon that they're trying to blow up isn't as obvious. But I mean, I kind of hate Rogue One because it's like, in retrospect, that was something that somebody intentionally did, as opposed to just the Empire being stupid and blinded by power. But anyway, so they're making their way through, putting the detonators on, they like split apart. And then Han sees his son,
Dude,
Kylo Ren.
I think this might be my favorite part of the movie.
And then he confronts it. Yeah, so he confronts him, on a bridge with no guardrails. So, like, I don't know how much more obvious they could have telegraphed what was about to happen. Like,
everybody saw that coming.
Come on. Yeah, there was no way something wasn't going to happen on there. But, he like shouts Ben, and I freaking like Kylo Ren's, just like walking, with purpose. And then he hears his dad yell his name, and he just stops dead. He's like, oh, damn it. Now I got to deal with this.
I have a theory that he baited him. Like, he knew that he was watching him.
I think
and saw him.
There's a shot where like he kind of reacts like he felt him, like he sensed him through the Force.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like Vader sensed Obi-Wan. It's like poetry, so that they run.
Yeah.
So, he's essentially like, take off your helmet, and then he's like, what do you think you'll see if I do? And then this freaking line, the face of my son. Like, oh, yeah. God, this poor guy, dude. And then, he takes off his helmet, and, he's like, I'm being torn apart. I want to be set free from this pain. I know what I have a lot I want to say
about this part,
but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Will you help me? And then, of course, Han, being his dad and he loves him, he says, yeah, I'll do anything. And then, so I want to just, say what happens first, and then kind of talk about it for a bit and rip it apart. So,
Definitely.
he takes out his unsheathed lightsaber, and then it looks like he's handing it to Han, and then Han grabs it, and then it's perfect because there's like a eclipse. The bay doors are closing where Rey and Finn
don't
are.
worry,
on
I got a lot to say
level.
about this. Yeah,
they're like closing, and then as soon as the light gets totally blocked out, he ignites the lightsaber. There's all red on his face now when there was like red and blue, because of the contrast.
I'm glad you noticed all this.
And then I didn't notice it until I saw other people point it out. But he ignites his lightsaber and he kills Han Solo. And then Han grabs Kylo Ren's face lovingly, and then he falls off of the bridge catwalk, kind of like the Emperor did in Return of the Jedi. So before, because there's a thing that I want to see your opinion of that I kind of thought about, but
yeah,
what do you think overall of them killing Han Solo and some fans not liking that, and how do you think it was executed, and how did you feel just watching this?
I thought it was executed great, and I'm glad they did it. I kind of wish they would have done it in the second movie, maybe earlier in the second movie. But still, it needed to happen. It happened the best way it could have happened, almost. Fitting send-off, and I actually love what they did with Han after this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As in still being a giant influence on Kylo and everybody. So I liked it. I like how they did it. Like you said, when he meets him on that catwalk, we already know that Kylo said that he feels the pull to the light side, and Han appeals to that. He said, we can help you. It's okay. You can come back. We miss you. And you see in the face of Adam Driver, who does a great job, like he's conflicted. Like he really is. He's not playing games. Like he's really conflicted. You see the blue on one side and you see the red on the other. and it's still dark, but then the bay doors open and the light shining in lights up Kylo even more. And if you notice, Poe Dameron said a few scenes before this, as long as we have light, we have hope, because the Star Killer base was siphoning the
Yeah.
sun for power. So if the sun was gone, that means that it's ready. The Star Killer base is ready. It's
I
all
didn't
powered up.
put that together with like Kylo
Yes.
Ren kind of becoming fully actualized.
Yes.
That's a great visual detail.
And there's even more after it. So the light is literally shining on him, and it's literally the light from the sun. So there's still hope. Now the light, like the actual sun, starts to disappear because of Starkiller Base. And at that point, like you said, everything becomes black and you see the glow of the red lightsaber. And if you watch Adam Driver's face, it's almost like it is literally like a visual representation of the Force. And that when all the light goes, Kylo Ren's face, you could just see that he just becomes fully,
it just
into
becomes
the dark
like,
side.
Fully stoic and like,
yes.
Okay, now I feel better. I feel confident. I gotta do
yes. And like he gave the lightsaber to Han, and Han at that point still had his hand on his lightsaber hilt. So when the dark side kind of just took over, he actually grabbed the lightsaber back from Han and then killed him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I had this spoiled for me. Not specifically how Han died, but that he died.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, because I saw something. It said that, and then it said that it's revealed that Jar Jar Binks was a Sith Lord or something. So then I'm like, oh, okay, so this entire thread is probably just absolute BS, whatever. But I mean, so it was still a shock to see how it happened. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I've heard that Harrison Ford wanted Han to die in Empire Strikes Back, but George, he said no, because he had other plans for him, I guess. And I kind of wish that would have happened, because I don't like Han in Return of the Jedi at all. Like, I think his role in that film is really bad. But I can understand like why some people had a problem with them killing Han and then later Luke and Leia, because I imagine like the alternate universe version of this trilogy where all three main characters reunite, and it's this big emotional moment, and they like talk about what they've been up to, over these past 30, 40 plus years and stuff, and they like laugh and joke around like they used to and stuff, and it's a really nice moment. But
it is,
as far as Han, they all die, in my opinion, in ways that serve the story instead of just feeling like random nonsense. But it would have been cool to see Han sacrifice his life, fighting the Empire or whatever. He chose to join the fight, and now he's paying for it, and he's accepting of that. But I'll tell you what's better: Han sacrificing his life for his family. Like, that's better in my opinion.
Definitely.
So I think that was a great choice, and it's a great scene. It's well filmed, well acted. So I want to get your read on this real quick, because you talk about Kylo Ren. He spent all the movie up until now, being conflicted, and even later in the trilogy that kind of resurfaces. So, in your opinion, do you think there was ever a chance that he might have actually joined Han and just chose to be himself again? Okay,
I think so.
Because I've heard that's what other theories that he as soon as he knew his dad was here, he knew he had to do that, and that was what his plan was. But I kind of don't entirely feel like he wanted to, because in The Last Jedi that kind of comes up. Like, Snoke says, because he's being berated by Snoke, and then he's like, I killed Han Solo, trying to be like, no, but I'm I'm not a failure. And then Snoke said, yeah, and it split you to the bone. Look at you.
Yeah. It takes away. It's very narrow-minded to think that it's kind of dogmatic, and it's like there has to be more nuance to it. It's not impactful unless there is,
Yeah, exactly.
a
Like if
struggle
he
there.
was just like playing Han's feelings the whole time, then that's not. I can't empathize with that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like just not as interesting. Like I do genuinely feel like when he said, I feel like I'm being torn apart. Like
So good.
I feel like that
him.
was
Yeah.
maybe the last remnants of Ben Solo.
Yes.
That we would see for a while. Like that was his like last cry for help. Like I can't take this anymore, Dad.
I completely agree.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
he fully gave into the dark side, and that was all we would see of Ben Solo until kind of Last Jedi, but really in Rise of Skywalker, like 100%.
I completely agree.
Okay, so as great as this scene is, I do have one weird issue. We see that when Han walks up to Kylo, like you see like a few stormtroopers, like they pull out their like rifles and they point them at Han. Why didn't they just shoot him? Like why? Like it seems weird that they were wondering like, I want to watch what happens here. Like why
It's
wouldn't
like,
they
we
just
need orders first.
Immediately?
It's like, no, you don't.
Like, I mean, maybe they were waiting for Kylo to say something, but like, I can't imagine. Like, they've been trying to kill, anybody affiliated with the Resistance up until now. Like, that was their whole mission. So it's weird that now they let this play out. Like, and then it's not until Chewie shoots Kylo Ren that they're like, okay, now we have to take action. Like, you could have just shot Han right in the head, and then.
It would have been
that would have been it's a little strange. But dude, like how Chewie cries out after Han dies, like my God, like that's his brother, dude.
That's one of my favorite parts of the
movie. They are
movie.
brothers, 100%. He freaking loved Han so much, and it's like, like
that's one of my favorite parts of the movie by far.
Yeah, that like choked me up when I was in the theater because it's like,
and he goes crazy, dude. He starts he goes John Wick in there with his bowcaster. Yeah.
And it's strange, like everybody that we've seen Chewie shoot with a bowcaster and Han shoot with the bowcaster, which is really fun that like he was using Chewie's weapon and he's like, dude, I like this thing. But we see them fly back like, 5 feet, but he shoots Kylo Ren and he just like falls down.
I like that. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
I guess that's because of the Force, right?
I'm assuming it's because I'm assuming it's probably because of his armor. I don't even know if he's wearing armor or just robes, but that's a great question.
I don't know if it's like full armor actually. Yeah, like it wounds him clearly, so he's not. But like, it's weird that he doesn't just because. Like you think, oh, he shoots Kylo with the bowcaster and he just flies right off of the thing and just falls like hundreds of feet and then dies. And okay, that's the end of Kylo Ren, everybody. Great job, Chewie. But like, unfortunately.
Oh, so I'm reading here. Sorry, but I just looked it up. I don't know what source says this, but why did Chewbacca shoot to injure and not kill Kylo Ren? And it's because he didn't want to kill Kylo because Han would have never wanted that.
Dang.
We're gonna stop there because that's what it is. We're not gonna.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
If that's not the actual reason, I don't care. I don't want to know.
I don't care. That is the reason.
And then the last thing I want to talk about regarding Han dying is Leia sends him through the Force, and just like Carrie Fisher's performance here is also her best in the entire saga, in my opinion. I think she was kind of the weakest as far as, people in the original show.
Writing.
Like, she wasn't bad necessarily, but she never like she only sold me when she was, you know, being like tough and assertive, but not as much when she was just a regular person and being gentle. Like it was fine. But you know, here like she doesn't say anything. All she does is like feel something and like, you know, like slowly sit down, you know, because she just knows like I just lost the love of my life.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? Like I can't, you know, like I think about this, you know, like people that have been, you know, because last year one of my aunts passed away. You know, she had health problems for a while. She was on dialysis for a long time, and that, you know, just essentially drains you down to nothing. And then,
Dude,
you know,
yeah, that's
passed
tough.
away. So and she had been married to my uncle for like maybe 40 years or something like that. Like I mean, that was how long they were together in their entire relationship. But like I was just like really thinking, I'm like, I can't imagine, you know, just being with somebody for that long and then suddenly they're just not there anymore. Like how do you, it's like I'm surprised like Leia didn't just like lose the will to live and just pass away right there.
Well, I love how you know at that point she's like force sensitive because she feels it, you know. Great touch. It cuts to her and she just, you know.
So then you know, they all run out of Starkiller Base, and then Rey and Finn run into the forest. You know, it's snowing. It's a great
I love it.
I love the environment and everything about this. And then who do they run into but Kylo Ren? And he's like, I've been running after YouTube SOBs for a long time, and I'm pissed because I just killed my dad and I'm bleeding. So let's dance. And then, you know, he pushes Rey into a tree. She passes out. And then Finn ignites the lightsaber. And I love this exchange. Kylo's like, that lightsaber belongs to me. And then Finn's like, so come and get it. Like, oh my God. It would have been better if Finn was a Jedi, but whatever.
They both should have. I see the reasoning for obviously making Rey one, but there's no excuse for not making Finn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then so dude, like it was one thing earlier in the movie when Finn held his own fighting that stormtrooper that had that like electric staff thingy.
Yeah, that was so cool. Yeah. That was one of the best fights.
But like, dude, he fights Kylo Ren with a lightsaber and holds his own for a little bit. Like it's so weird. Like I'm wondering how he was that skilled, or maybe Kylo probably wasn't giving 100%, but like
Kylo was
he
injured.
Still could have. Yeah. He could have taken out Finn with like 3% of his power, but it's weird that, you know, he had to struggle a little bit, and Finn even wounded him, you know, which Kylo was like, oh damn, okay, now I gotta knock you out because I was playing around too much.
Like I know people were going crazy because, oh, he was trained by Luke Skywalker. Yeah, he was. They shouldn't have been close at all. Yes, but also he was injured, and two, Finn was trained as a stormtrooper. For whatever that's worth, you know what I mean. Also, I believe that he is force sensitive because of what they do in the Rise of Skywalker, so that could have played a part.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know.
Yeah, like I don't entirely agree with the criticism people have of Rey, where they say she's a Mary Sue, you know, because like she's overpowered and she always wins, you know, and she beats Kylo Ren and she does all these things. But I get it. Like I think the writing for her should have had her like be a little weaker, you know, and kind of like fail in a lot more ways than she does. Like her flaws are mainly her personality and not that much else, which I think is kind of
pretty much, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Not, you know, the best writing, you know, compared to like Luke and Anakin, you know, where like they get their asses kicked a little bit more than Rey does. But you know, like I've never heard anybody say that Finn is a Mary Sue, but like he manages to fight with a lightsaber twice, even though he's never used one. And at this point, he wasn't confirmed to be sensitive to the Force. So he's fighting with this Jedi weapon he's never used and somehow like not totally failing. And it's like, I've never heard people say that that's weird, but that's also kind of strange. Like, I don't know. That's not me saying that it's like bad necessarily or anything, but like it's weird that all of the criticism gets lumped at Rey and not some of the stuff that Finn does here. But I mean,
and also when you see Finn though fumble a lot with the lightsaber, like he's not graceful. And I actually like when Rey gets the lightsaber at first because it's believable that she could pull the lightsaber with the Force, like how Luke does in the beginning of Empire. That is believable. And Kylo gets Rey to the edge of that ravine that splits open, and he says, "You need a teacher. I could train you in the Force." And then she closes her eyes and just instantly knows how to fight. That is a little bit of a,
yeah. Okay, so
too much of a plot device. So we're good.
Finn wounds Kylo Ren, and then Kylo's like, "Okay, screw you," and he just slashes Finn in the back, and he falls down. Dude, I felt that brutal. When I was in the theater, with the sound design and stuff. I was like, he's not dead, is he? Oh no, oh man, please don't tell me they killed my boy. But they thankfully didn't. And then, he turns to the lightsaber, which is in the snow, and then he's like trying to pull it with the Force, and then it like starts shaking, and then it flies past him into Rey's hands. And some people were like, how would she know how to do that? Which I get it, because like it's one thing, like we've seen characters that can like fly a ship really good because of the Force. We've seen like in A New Hope, Luke, like blocked some of the lasers from that training droid thing when he was wearing the visor, because of the Force. Okay, fine, I get it. I feel like that's kind of like how, when like people get overcome with adrenaline, like they can like lift a car.
That's
like,
all it was.
To like rescue their child or something. Fine, but it is a little weird in my opinion. I'm curious to see what you think, that like she thought to like try and summon a lightsaber from like 5 feet away. Like it's not like I think like if they were gonna do that, it should have had a moment earlier in the movie where like maybe like she accidentally like made something like shake, and she looked at it like, what the heck was that? That was weird. How did I do that?
Two things. I agree with you, but I think they did do it at the point whenever she used the Force for mind control. And then also Kylo said, a trooper comes up to him and says something about, oh, she's in this wing, she made a disturbance. He said, yes, she's learning her powers for the first time. If we don't, the more we wait, the stronger she'll become. So this is her becoming stronger. And also it's Star Wars. It's meant to be unrealistic. It's okay to a point, obviously. I mean, I think it was cool.
I kind of like looked at it as like, I think the Force like actually like speaks to people, like it's kind of a higher power. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So like maybe like, because like it awakens in Rey, who at the time had no lineage that we knew of that would explain her powers. So it's like, well, the Force sometimes just like picks who it wants to pick for reasons beyond our comprehension, Yeah, so it's
you're right. Definitely.
It's a great moment, and I love that like she looks like scared, like I love it like whenever she taps into the Force, like she's never like, I am going to activate my power. No, it's like, oh my god, I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's like do or die situation, which is fun.
Yeah. So they fight, and I freaking love that she's not graceful when she tries to fight with the saber at all. Like she's like stabbing awkwardly, and like lunging forward and like wildly swinging, and Kylo's just effortlessly ducking and dodging. She spends the majority of their fight just running away, which I like. People act like she summons the lightsaber and just immediately whoops his ass. It's like, no, she runs away because she's scared and she really doesn't know how to even try to fight. Like, it's not great, but it could be a lot worse. Like, I've seen
It could be a
overpowered
lot
characters
worse,
that are just obnoxious. So then
It was just something dumb to get upset over. I get it. It might not be perfect, but think about Anakin in Episode 1, Phantom Menace. I mean,
yeah, that's way more ridiculous, and I've never heard any. Like, I've heard people say the scene is stupid, but like, I've never heard people say it. Like, how did he manage to do that necessarily? But it's like, yeah, he literally helped them win the entire war, and it's like, that's so stupid. I genuinely hate it, actually. But yeah. So they're fighting, and he gets Rey to the edge of a cliff, and then they have their sabers locked, and then he's like, "You need a teacher. I could show you the ways of the Force." And then Rey has a realization, like, "Oh, the Force. Oh yeah, that's a thing that exists, and apparently I can tap into." So she closes her eyes and kind of taps into the Force. But like, I never understood this moment because, like, she's been tapping into the Force throughout the movie, like, on her own. Like, she does the mind trick and she summons the saber. But then in this moment, she has an epiphany, like, oh yeah, I can use the Force. It's
I
like,
can use it.
What the hell were you doing all this time? Like,
that's where the big issue is.
Yeah.
That's where my issue is. Yeah. It's just such a drastic jump that it's almost unbelievable. Like, when I'm fine with her getting the lightsaber and fighting before that moment, because she's obviously losing. She's getting chased through the forest and she almost dies many times. But then after that moment, she gives him the scar on his face and disarms him.
Yeah, like,
that should not happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like what should have happened is, like, she should have, like, breathed, tapped into the Force, and then, I don't know, maybe, like,
use the Force ability to, like, flip over the ravine or something. Like,
or like manage, or like mustered up enough energy to like make him like to like force push him like really far, and then maybe like the ship comes and then like she gets on the ship and then he like runs to the edge and he's just like watching her fly away, and it's like, I'll get you next time, Batman. Like,
but that'd be like a cool like serial ending to this.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of her like just totally like like she's suddenly untouchable by Kylo Ren for like 10 seconds. It's like, like, they're not helping the allegations of her being a Mary Sue by including scenes like this. So it's not a point I totally agree with, but when I hear it, I'm just like, well, I mean, that's the fault of the filmmakers. So they go back to the base and they celebrate their victory, and then
R2. Sorry, go ahead.
I like that. I'm gonna get to that. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Leia and Rey hug, because they're sad about Han and stuff, and I like this moment because I always read it as like Leia kind of adopting Rey, quote unquote, like she's kind of her mom now because Han was kind of her dad in a way, and it's like, like she's like looking after her, and they're like sharing this bond even though they don't really know each other. I think it's a little weird though that like I don't think they ever had a conversation before this moment, which is weird. Like, I think they should have established some kind of a bond, at least slightly. But it's not bad. And then a lot of people were like, how come she hugged Rey but not Chewie? She just walks past Chewie. And then I think like JJ said something like, yeah, the editing was like, that's just because of the I forget what he said, but it just sounded like he was like trying to think of something like, oh no, the fans have a question about this totally valid thing. I don't know this. It's
the editors.
It's all like
their fault.
Come on. Like, yeah, it's like she hugs him in The Last Jedi, but not in this movie after he lost. He was closer to Han than Rey was. Why was Rey the one? Actually, like, the more that I think about it, I realize that it is really dumb, and I don't like it.
Yeah, it does mean something, but there's a lot I love about the movie, and there's a lot that I just question. Like, how do you get this wrong? So
R2D2 Ex Machina, baby. Oh yeah, he wakes
out of
up out of nowhere for no
reason.
reason, and we never find out why he woke up at this moment. By the way, that never comes up, so that could be another plot point that leads to nothing. I love it. Oh, I forgot to mention the other plot point that leads to nothing. Snoke says to Hux, "Bring me Kylo Ren. We will complete his training."
Complete his training.
Plot point that leads to nothing, baby. Let's go.
What?
You can make trading cards out of all the plot points that just totally get abandoned in this movie. It's freaking pathetic. Because at the time I was like, oh, he's gonna complete his training and then he's gonna be way more powerful. Well,
yeah, so
not really.
Okay, we got to think about it at the time. At the time, it's like, okay, well, he was very, very incapable, obviously, if Rey beat him, never having touched a lightsaber before. And we didn't know that he was trained by Luke at this point, you know what I mean? And he said, oh, we got to complete his training. So this movie retroactively gets a little bit more egregious after seeing some other ones. So
the other thing I hate is, like, we never find out how Snoke even knew Ben Solo in the first place. Because he seduced him to the dark side, but, like, how did he know who he was? How did they meet?
Yeah, I don't want to try to even comprehend.
It's probably in a book somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna say for now on. When it doesn't lead to something, it's in a comic series, a spin-off comic.
So okay, R2D2 wakes up out of nowhere. It's stupid, and then he has the other piece to the map conveniently. This important thing to help find Luke Skywalker that we hadn't had the entire piece of, and it's been a real pain in our ass. R2 has it, and he just woke up randomly for no reason. So now we can put the map together. Woohoo! Yay! Kill me. It's so stupid. Like, they couldn't think of any other way to get the other piece of the map. Like, I don't know. And then I freaking love this. Rey walks up to Finn, who's, like, laying on a bed or something. He's, like, in a coma, I guess. Hooked up to machines or whatever to heal.
That was a cool, like, cliffhanger for his character.
And then, no, but I love that she says, we'll see each other again. And I wrote here, at the end of the next movie. I love it. He was set up as the second lead, and then in Last Jedi, they meet up at the end of the movie.
I don't mind if they would have.
It still kind of sucks. It's just bad pacing of the whole trilogy.
Done something with his character in The Last Jedi, aside from what they did.
I mean,
but we'll get to that.
We're going to talk about that, but I have very mixed feelings about all that. So, Rey flies off to Ahch-To, which is a beautiful looking planet. I really like it. I kind of wonder, I heard some speculation about this, like some theories, because when Kylo's reading Rey's mind, he says, you're so alone at night, to help you fall asleep, you picture an ocean. I could see the island now, So some people were, like, wondering if Rey, like, somehow saw Ahch-To, like, in her mind or something. Which maybe we never even find out about that. So it doesn't freaking matter. It's not, whatever.
It don't matter.
So Rey goes there to give Luke his lightsaber and ask for his help in fighting the First Order. What could possibly go wrong? And then we have a really weird Rocky shot for some reason. And then that's the end of the movie. So
decent cliffhanger. I mean, obviously it was huge at the time, but waste. He should have been in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. How did you feel about Luke being in the movie for like 5 seconds and having no dialogue?
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's cool. Wait a second. They don't know. I immediately thought they don't know what they're going to do with him. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, I was like, this feels wrong.
It's the mystery box. Why is Luke on the island? I don't know. Find out in the next movie. It's like, no.
The reason I thought that is because she holds out the lightsaber and he doesn't do anything. He just stares at her, and I'm like, they are purposely drawing this out because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's so weird because, you know, in Last Jedi, we all know what happens. Like, he throws the lightsaber away because he doesn't want anything to do with it. But like,
we'll get into it.
Even there's even a little inconsistency in here because
oh, I know, yeah,
the look in his eyes
yes.
isn't that like he's like upset or mad or like, why is this lady trying to hand me a lightsaber? Screw all that shit. But like, he has this look like, I don't know, like he's kind of maybe in awe, like he doesn't really know how to feel about it, but it's not like he's angry.
I have a feeling.
So I feel like it seems like maybe he was just, or like maybe he either thought like maybe somebody would eventually find him and he's like, oh, okay, now's that time, or he was like just like so overcome with emotion because it's been a long time since he's seen somebody, and like, you know, he's like, I don't know, something, but like,
but that's
it
not
doesn't
part of
totally
it. Like,
feel
okay, we'll get into it.
Yeah. So
there's not much. Basically, what you're saying is there's not much to go off of at the end of this movie, so you're kind of left to speculate. And that's what we did, and that's, you know, why this movie was so big, is because it left a lot of speculation for what the rest of the trilogy was going to look like. You know, because at the time, like, there was a lot of mystery boxes, there was a lot of plot holes that we thought were going to get, you know, filled.
Yeah. So overall, this is still one of my favorite Star Wars movies. You know, it has a special place in my heart because it was good. You know, because the first prequel movie I remember watching vividly was Revenge of the Sith. I remembered seeing Attack of Clones and Phantom Menace, but I didn't remember anything aside from like a few, you know, scenes, like shots and stuff. So I considered that my start to the prequels, and then I eventually watched, you know, the other two, and then I saw the original trilogy later in life when I was like 18 or 19. So for me, this was like the first trilogy that I got to experience from the beginning. You know, like, I got to speculate along with everybody else. I got to go on the ride along with everyone else.
That's what was so fun about this trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's in my top 5. I don't know exactly where, maybe like 3 or 4, something like that. Like, it was my favorite for a while, but that title might still be The Last Jedi or not. I don't know. It's been a little bit since I've seen that movie. I could watch it and be like, nah, it's not my favorite anymore. But yeah, I think this movie has a lot of great stuff. In my opinion, some stuff is better than maybe anything we've seen in Star Wars. That's a scalding take, but it also
I kind of agree.
Has a lot of writing issues, and, you know, JJ's mystery box approach to storytelling just felt less like him creating like these plot threads that still were satisfying, because it was like, you know, like if you eat a 4-course meal, all those courses of that meal better be satisfying to eat, you know? And then so when you're done with the whole course meal, you're like, that was a great piecemeal experience. But with JJ, it seems more like, you know, sometimes I'm gonna give you like a Rice Krispie treat, but no, I'm gonna give you a steak at some point, but I don't know, you know, we'll just have to find out, hint hint. And it's like, no, I'm hungry here. Feed me something now.
Yeah.
And why would you wait till, you know? So I have problems.
This is what I'll say. I
feel like he should have just been in charge of the whole trilogy. It's for something like Star Wars, you know, like, it's not like Mission Impossible where like up until Rogue Nation, is Rogue Nation's 5, right? No. What's the name of the 5th movie? Is that Rogue Nation?
Fallout.
I think that's Rogue Nation.
Fallout?
No, I think 5 is Rogue Nation. Like the other movies, Tom Cruise wanted to bring in a different director for each one so that like it had like its own flavor. And like those movies
Rogue Nation.
don't necessarily have one cohesive story. I mean, like they do kind of, but not, like they're also kind of standalone, so that's fine. But like if you're doing a trilogy in a franchise like this, you just need one dude or a team, and they didn't have that. So, JJ kind of had the freedom to do his style of storytelling, but the problem is that not a lot of filmmakers really make movies that way. So I have been able to see the problems with it more and more over the years, but I'll never stop loving this movie. So what are your closing overall thoughts about The Force Awakens?
So I do like The Force Awakens, and here's the thing: this trilogy is the mystery meat of Star Wars, and especially this movie. This movie is mystery meat. Some people love mystery meat because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So there's no expectations for the taste. Other people hate mystery meat because it tastes disgusting. They don't care about the mystery. So when you watch this, it's like, okay, some of it is some of the best we've seen in Star Wars, but then you understand that it doesn't lead to anything. The good parts really mean nothing. And then other parts are important and impactful, but then what they lead to is underwhelming because there was no cohesive story. So this whole trilogy feels like the mystery meat where it's like, I don't really understand how it fits or why it fits or even what it is, but I like it.
Yeah.
And it's just so different than what George did because George had a cohesive vision almost the entire way through, as much as one could with something that's successful. So they should have had a team devoted with a singular vision in, maybe a Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau to make a cohesive picture for an entire trilogy. Because it's obvious that it's so disjointed, and that is what makes it, not great. But it's, for me, the George Lucas movies, the original saga, the original 6, are always going to be my top 6 just because.
Yeah.
And then this one is right below it. So this one technically would be 7 for me, just because I hold the other 6 on a different. I still consider it Star Wars, but I take the other 6, okay, and then there's 7. But if I look at it as an individual movie, I would put it above some of the other ones. I don't know exactly where, but I try to think about it and what does it bring to the saga, and what does it, how does it fit in the saga? And for me, it's still a little bit lower because I feel like it was an afterthought of how it fits into the saga because a lot of it doesn't fit. So, but as a standalone movie, I like it, and I think it's pretty good. Performances are good. Like I mentioned, Kylo Han, Finn, some fun action, cool use of the Force, nice visuals. It's fun blockbuster.
Yeah. So, okay, those are our thoughts on Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I was the one I wrote this one as opposed to Caleb wrote the outlines for the other ones. So it's like
yes,
so it's kind of like the sequel trilogy, where like his writing is a little snappier, whereas mine we have to split the episode up because we get stuck talking about stuff, and there's a lot.
I didn't think we would go in detail this much.
That's just how my brain works.
I'm glad we did because these are meant to be evergreen content. So I want to lay it all out now, as detailed as we want, as much as we want. It turned out better than expected already.
And if anybody thought this episode was long, well, The Last Jedi one is gonna be like our Revenge of the Sith one. I think is a little over 4 hours, right? Yes. I think The Last Jedi one is gonna take like 3 days to do because there's just so freaking much.
There's more meat when you get into the sequel trilogy. Not meat, but there's just more to talk about because there's just I don't know. There's a lot
very
of contention,
polarizing movie, and there's a lot to analyze. But I'm excited to watch that one again. So
I am too. So
thanks for being on, as always. It's always fun to talk Star Wars.
Yep. Thank you for hosting this and writing it. I think it turned out great. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
think it came out better than I thought. It was certainly more cohesive than this trilogy.
I was going to say that. Yeah. It was more cohesive than a J.J. Abrams movie.
Yeah.
So
Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed. For sub to our YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube.
Yes.
Check out our TikTok because the views on that
thank
are
you. Yep.
really weird. That's at the Senate Pod on TikTok.
I'll link it.
Yeah, link it. And we will see you in the next one. Peace.
May the force be with you.